Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Brother Canada 7 Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Taryn Armstrong, and this is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. Today, I am joined by Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
Oh, I'm okay. This has been not a great, super fun week in the Big Brother house. I may have to walk back some of my fandom of Adam after his showing this week. But, at this point, we're really left with the dregs, and I'm going to have to take what I can get, I think.
Also with us tonight is Brent, who is definitely not taking back his fandom of Adam.
I'm not. I'm really not. As I said on Twitter, I can appreciate the strategy of the season and really be into it. And also, from a fanboy perspective, I can be down on it. I saw Marietta from our chat room. She's also on Twitter saying, Brent, we need you. If you're down on the season, then we're going to be down on the season. But, I'm down on the season as an entertainment vessel. But strategy-wise, I feel like people are really playing their ass off here at the end. They're really trying to make sure they put themselves in a prime position to get to the end of the game and win, and that has to be applauded. Look, it may not be the move that I want to see made, but on the other hand, you have people like Kira who are effectively playing for other people in the house, Melissa. So I can't be mad at people being self-interested, and Adam has placed himself in a great position going into this week, and I think targeting Mark would have probably been the worst move of the choices that he had on the board.
But why, though? Everyone keeps saying that, and I don't see why. I don't see why he should have not targeted Mark this week.
Well, Mark's going for Dane, number one, for my opinion. Mark and Anthony are going for Dane before they go for Adam. And Dane, to my mind, is Adam's number one competition as far as winning the game at the end. That's first of all. Number two, there wasn't any real loyalty with Esty. Esty was always coming for, of the pieces on the game board, who the hell is she going to target? She's not going to target Dane. I mean, I'm sorry, Taryn. I know we're already getting into it, but who is Esty going to target? I feel like that if she doesn't put up Adam to begin with, I feel like he's at least her second best option. Like if somebody wins a veto and she needs somebody else to go on the block, she's going to put up Adam on the block. So why is he going to keep her in the game? That's Dane's piece on the board. And also Dane is more powerful with Esty in the game. So why isn't it Adam's best move to try and get rid of one of the pieces of the guy who's his number one competition in the game? It's not the move we want to see made, but it's the move that I feel like needs to be made right now.
Yeah, it's the Batman of moves. So yes, we are here live on YouTube. You can join us in the chat if you want to, and as you can see, debate already sprouting from the gameplay this week. I do think that we have some interesting things to look forward to, especially as we get down to the final 6, final 5, and then of course final 4. But let's just catch you up to speed here. The last time we talked, Corey had just been put on the block by the secret assassin that we learned was, of course, Adam. And Corey did end up leaving by a 3-1 vote. Anthony was mad about that. And he
That's an understatement.
implied that he was going to do something about it if he won the next HOH, but he did not win the next HOH. Adam did, and Anthony continued to be mad, and he yelled at Kira for a little while, so that happened. Then we saw Adam as HOH. This is the decision that we're talking about here. He landed on Damien and Esty for his nominations and a fake backdoor plan for Mark. We saw this in the episode. He set up this house meeting to pretend that he was on this whole train of we get a backdoor Mark, and Anthony had tried to push for Kira to go on the block, but that plan did not succeed. Ultimate nominations end up being Damien and Esty, and now we have the fans like Melissa who are very disappointed in this move, who really wanted to see Adam take a strike at Mark. We have fans like maybe Brent, who would have liked to see the shot at Mark, but sort of saying, you know what, this is the best move though for Adam moving forward. And then I'm not saying anything right now. Let's just let them too.
Well, so here's the thing.
There wasn't a third option.
Here's the thing is I can understand when there's a move being made that benefits them, even though it's not necessarily great for, excitement or the fans or drama or anything like that, or any sort of like big move. I can totally get that. Like if a player sees that, hey, this move is better for me. As much as I'd love to go this other way, this move is better for my game now that I've thought about it. And the problem is I didn't get that analysis from Adam. I didn't get him like thinking it over and being like, okay, now what's my best move here? Like, how do I get further in this game? All I saw was just him going right back to the pretty boys being like, okay, cool guys, now we're back together again. What's going on? Okay, cool. It's like they literally could have cared less about you last week when they put you up on the block with no say from yourself. Like you didn't get to argue for yourself. There was no discussion. It was you were going up on the block no matter what. And then all of a sudden it just feels like he's scrambling right back to them and being like, okay, guys, I'm absolutely loyal to you. Like there's nothing here that could have stopped me. It doesn't seem like I didn't get the analysis where he's like, okay, what do I do now? Do I turn against the pretty boys or do I keep on trucking with them because that's my best move to get to the end? And I don't think he ever would have turned on the pretty boys no matter what. And that's the problem here is that's why I'm not as keen on Adam as I was when I thought, he sees it now. He sees what's going on. It just seems like he's been loyal to the pretty boys the whole time. And any sort of alternative plan was just in my mind because that was never in his mind. And that's what's disappointing about this. It's not that, oh, he didn't make the move, I'm upset. It's that he didn't seem to even think of it as an option. He was just like, okay, cool. Like I'm sticking with my alliance, loyalty above all. And it's disappointing.
Okay. So a couple things. There was a lot in that. So I'm going to try and take it piece by piece. Number one, as they pointed in the chat room, this was his baby. This was his idea to get these 4 boys, including himself, to the end of the game. He wanted it. He made it happen. He picked the guys. And so it's a big deal to him. So even though I do appreciate your analysis that you're right, there wasn't anything coming from him insofar as, well, Essie's going to come after me and I need to take Dane's piece off the board. I mean, we never heard him say any of that on the cameras. He just went right back to the boys. That's true, but he did land on what I believe to be the correct move on the board, no matter how he got there. It's sort of like in Candyland where he took like the long way around to get there. He didn't go straight up the ladder to get to the top. I mean, like he still landed on the right space. So I feel like there's that. Number 2, he does realize that if he goes against the alliance that he created, I mean, all 4 pretty boys are on the jury, whether or not, I mean, if 2 end up in the final 2, then there's only going to be 2 on the jury, but there is going to be a few pretty boys on the jury. I don't know that he really feels great about pissing them off. And also, I don't know that he needs to piss them off to get to the end of the game and win. I think Adam can go against literally anybody and probably win the game. Maybe even Dane. I don't know if he can beat Dane, but I think that's certainly a possibility. And also, I agree with you that, it was sucky that he was like, mad that they didn't even care whether or not they put him on the block last week, that they even put him in danger. But you can't play this game from a revenge standpoint. And I feel like 2 wrongs don't make a right. I feel like they made a wrong move from his perspective by putting him in danger, putting him on the block last week. But just because they did that doesn't mean that he then has to go and put them up on the block. Obviously, in the end, he did mark us up on the block now, but I don't know that like targeting him, Mark, and actually trying to get him out of here and voting him out in what is likely to be a tie vote on Thursday. I just don't think that that's the right plan for him, even though they might have tried to do it to him. I will say this, that I think if you put truth serum to Adam, I would say that he probably is aware of the fact that he might be on the hot seat as far as Mark and Anthony were concerned last week. But I felt like they all did a good enough job of sort of putting this broken egg back together, Tarrant, where it did break, but it's sort of taped and scotch taped together now where they're all still believing it's a thing. And as long as they're all still believing it's a thing and going for it and keeping it intact, I mean, at this point, Melissa, I really do feel like that Essie's going to leave. Damien's going to be 6th place. Kira's probably going to be 5th place. And it's going to be the 4 boys at the end, unless something changes. So given that, I feel like this is probably the right move.
Yeah, I think that looking at this from Adam's perspective, he has a couple of options. I think maybe 3 different options here. He can do the current move he's making and try to stick it out with the Pretty Boys and hope that they remain loyal and that he gets to the Final Four with the Pretty Boys, at which point Adam has, in my opinion, like almost a 50% chance at least of winning the game, because it's just going to be him versus Dane in these competitions, most likely. And he has a very, very good chance of winning his way down toward the end. It's a great spot for him to get to the Final Four with those guys, especially because I don't think Dane even wants to take out Adam at the Final Four, which means he goes down to the Final 3 with those guys, even if he loses to Dane. So that's not a bad option. Then he has the option of just completely going rogue and targeting Mark, trying to get Mark or even Dane out of the house as his biggest competition threat, and that he tries to just win his way down to the end, which would mean that basically every single person in the house would be gunning for him in the double eviction coming up, and that he would need to win that veto, and he would need to win the next competitions because he would always be the number 1 target. But with Dane or Mark out of the house, he has a better shot at doing that. Then third option is he teams up with Dane, convinces Dane to take a shot at Mark and Anthony, and with Dane's blessing takes that shot, takes Mark out of the game, eliminates some of his competition threat, but that leaves Dane with Esty and Damien in the house and no other threats for them to go after. And so when I look at when I look at all 3 of those options, I do think that Adam is probably making the right decision here. That if the Pretty Boys do stay loyal to him, and honestly, even if they don't, there's not a great chance they're going to be able to get him out, and they might target Dane first anyway. And so I think that one of the reasons why he is staying so loyal to the Pretty Boys is because he knows that if they also stay loyal, then he's in a great position. He's probably one of the better positioned people, especially getting down to the Final 5 with Kira, because if Kira wins, Adam is the safest person left in the house, and then getting down to the Final 4, even if Kira then leaves, he's still in one of the best positions. So I can't fault him too much, as much as we would like to see the fireworks now. Hopefully we see the fireworks later, but I think that's sort of how I see it from his perspective.
Melissa, really quickly, just to play it out, like let's say he did target Mark here, or let's say he said it's a fake backdoor Mark plan and he gets the boys to buy into it, and then on Thursday he evicts Mark. Well, that leaves Dane's piece on the game board along with Damien, and I really feel like that puts Dane in the catbird seat because Anthony isn't going to win anything. Dane and Adam's the outgoing HOH, so like Dane could easily throw it to Damien or Esty. They're going to put up Anthony and Adam at that point, I feel like, and Adam might go home. But as long as the way things is the way things stay in terms of Dane being in front of him, Mark's going to go after Dane, and Dane's going to go after Mark when it gets down to it. And Adam, especially, he's really put himself in a great position. You can tell my rating of him is going to be good this week because he has managed to get, like, the person he's brought in, like, everybody had a side piece, right? And his side piece used to be Sam, but now his side piece is Kira. So his side piece is now the add-on to the Pretty Boys, which really, like, given Dane's loyalty and Kira's loyalty, there's no way Adam's going to be evicted. I mean, I feel like Dane could be evicted before Adam. I just feel like he has to be given credit. Let me ask you this. Your quibble is the fact that we never heard him say any of what we're saying. So we're sort of annoyed that he's just, crawling back to these assholes who didn't really give a shit about him. Like, let's put the real tea on the table, Melissa. That's what we're mad about. Because I can speak for you, because I feel like I would felt exactly the same way. I'm mad that this idiot Adam, didn't realize that these idiots were targeting him last week, that Mark was trying to get Adam out of the house. Maybe we don't know. Even though they said in the diary room, maybe, yeah, but was he really? I don't know. How was he going to make it happen? He targeted Adam, didn't really care about his safety in the game by putting him on the block, didn't give Adam any say-so, and Adam, at the end of all of that, just went crawling back to them. Like, how pathetic do you have to be? That's the fan part of us. But, strategy-wise, it's just I can't believe I'm speaking for strategy at this point. Like, I'm usually...
Well, what else is there to talk about?
Campaigning for Karen at the end, By the way, I went back and listened to that podcast. It was not as bad as you said it was. But now the one before it, maybe, but not that one.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like the issue I'm having, or at least one of them, is that I think that even if this wasn't the right move for him, like if we all knew, like if all the Pretty Boys were talking about, like, okay, double eviction coming up, we're getting Adam out, we're all against him, We all know it. We're together, whatever. If they were saying something like that, like, I think Adam would still be going with them. Like, I think that even if this was the wrong move, he wouldn't have thought of any other move. He would have been like, I'm just sticking with the pretty boys. And I think we'd be talking a lot differently about this if that was the situation and this was the wrong move.
What
And
do you
we
think
were
about
like,
that, Taryn?
I
I
mean,
just feel like he would do it anyway.
yeah, I think it's a reasonable like theory, but I think it's hard to say for sure because, you know, I think that Adam would have a chance to get a read that he's in a bad position within the Pretty Boys if that were the case. And I do think that he's been pretty good at reading Mark and Anthony, especially when they are against him. He might not be able to catch Dane when Dane is doing it, but I do think that if they really were trying to pull one over on him, that he definitely at the very least have a chance of seeing through it. And if he did see through it, I think he would take a shot. I think he would make a move. You know, but I hear what you're saying too, where I do think he is more loyal to the Pretty Boys than he should be. And I think that comes from the fact that it is his baby, it is his idea, and he really wants it to succeed. I think there is a little bit of blindness there. So, yep. You know, I think it is a point fairly taken.
I think that's
also
a fair point, Melissa.
You know, another thing is that I just feel like last week I was seeing like an alternate path for him. I thought he was putting himself in a really good position to, you know, kind of link up with Damian, and that way he would have Damian and Kira on his side. And it seemed like Dane and Esty were both willing to go against Mark, at least, maybe Anthony, who knows, but at least they'd be willing to go against Mark. And it seemed like even though Dane would still have Esty on the board, it was looking like Adam would have Damian and Kira. Then he puts Damian on the block, puts Esty on the block. Now he doesn't have both of them. It just seems like all the work that he was putting in last week was literally for nothing, because now he's just right back in with the Pretty Boys instead of going and forging this alternate path that it seemed like was kind of laying out in front of him, especially after Mark was trying to target him last week. I just feel like everyone and people in the chat saying, oh, Melissa just wants Anthony out. I don't want Anthony out. Anthony is my draft pick. Why would I ever want Anthony to go out? I don't want Anthony to go out. I want Mark to go out. And I think that Mark could have gone out this week without a ton of repercussions on Adam's game. And so, yes, I think he took an easy route when there was another way to go about this.
That's it. So he took the easy route rather than the harder, more entertaining route where, like, because I'm with you. I was going into like Wednesday, Thursday of last week. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great because like everyone's against Mark. And so like I had visions of Anthony and Mark up on the block and Mark going home or even Anthony going home. And like, you know, then Esty maybe could win the game. Damian maybe could win the game. But no, like that's like the problem is that I don't mean to talk this to death, but it just puts Adam in a bad position because then Adam then takes out Mark. Adam's the outgoing HOH. Now Dane has Damian and Esty, and I hear your point that yes, he could have got Damian's loyalty back by saying, "Look, I'm the assassin." In fact, Adam plans to tell Damian that he is the assassin or was the assassin if Damian happens to win the double eviction HOH. But I feel like that's a lot of ifs there. Like, I mean, Damian could easily decide with Dane because he's enjoyed his company more all season long and Dane has had his loyalties most of the season up until this point. Like to just see him switch over to Adam right now, I feel like that's a tough ask for Adam to believe in. You know.
I mean, last week, you know, prior to the HOH, Esty and Damian were saying, you know what, we do like Adam more than we did before. We would prefer Mark to go first. But if somebody won the veto, we have to take our shot. And so the problem, you know, he can build a great relationship with Damian, but if Damian and Esty are both still in the game together, Esty will absolutely be the glue between Damian and Dane, even if Damian wasn't inclined to go with Dane over Adam, which I do think he already was. The problem is if you take Mark off the board, then they have nobody left to take a shot at other than Adam. They're not going to take a shot at Dane. It doesn't make any sense for them to do that. It doesn't make any sense for them to take out Kira or Anthony, who haven't won anything. You've got Adam sitting there with no other person in front of him. He's basically taking out his own shield that is in front of him from them. And then, obviously they're gonna take the shot. I did see somebody in the chat point out that, hey, like isn't this what Mark was trying to do last week? Isn't this exactly what Mark was doing? Like keeping his, making the safer move according to people. And I don't know if it's super equivalent, but I do think that it is telling that I did say keeping Corey was the best move for Mark. It was the way that he went about his whole HOH week that really demolished his game. And I think we're seeing Adam do something kind of similar. He's taking out Esty, one of the weakest players in the game, and yet no backlash for Adam in the house. People are on board. Kira is on board. Obviously, the Pretty Boys are on board, and they're even starting to work on Damien to get him on board. I think that goes a long way to show just how dramatically different their social games are in the house, that Adam is able to get away with taking out Eddie and Esty and Laura and all of these people, whereas when Mark backs down from the move, everyone calls him vindictive and weak and little. I think that I agree, they're probably similar moves, but Adam is able to get away with it in a way that Mark never could.
Yeah, Mark is just such a bad player. Mark is just so terrible. Like, we all know Mark is just so awful. Like, I would say, honestly, the majority of people playing this season are just so bad. Just like everybody is so awful. And I feel like that's been such a depressing part of this season, is that I just feel like we keep saying, and I just feel like a broken record at this point, because I keep saying, well, let's just get all these people out so that the real players can play. Well, let's just get all these people out so that the real players can play. And we just keep saying that every single week. And it's like, everybody turns into a non-real player until we get down to the 4 Pretty Boys. And I just feel like it's like we are literally just waiting out the clock until it's the 4 Pretty Boys at the end, so we can finally maybe see some gameplay. It's just I'm so sick of waiting around like this. Like, this is absolutely no fun when you just have a bunch of people that you're like, well, they can go. I don't feel like there's been a single move this whole season where it's been like, let's get this person. We got them. Like, there's been cool moves, whatever, except for Corey getting out this past week. And that wasn't even like by actual gameplay. That was a twist. I'm so sick of everything that's going on. I just, thank God it's a double eviction this week, so we can get some more of these useless players out and get down to the Pretty Boys.
I'm hearing a lot of Anthony every time you say Pretty Boys. Pretty Boys. Pretty Boys.
Pretty Boys.
It's really funny to me. But yeah, I mean, I think this is the problem when when you only put like 6 of 15 people in the house that are capable of really playing the game, and 4 of them are in an alliance, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, if they were all on separate sides of the house, like, can you imagine? I mean, not even Mark though. I just feel like Mark is just like useless. But if Dane and Adam and Anthony were all like fighting against each other with like various little armies, like, then you'd have an actual game. But
Melissa, I want to ask you, like, do you realize how different the season could have been if Damien was the guy who was asked to be a part of the Pretty Boys, and Mark was left to his own devices with his terrible social game and all of his awkwardness? Like, how delicious that would have been to see him go out third or something.
Or can you imagine if Anthony was not included in the Pretty Boys? I just feel like he wouldn't make it.
Damien was screwed over by you, Canada, because you gave him the damn twist, which made him wait until the last group, and by then the Pretty Boys had already formed.
It's Canada's fault.
Canadians.
There you go. So that is the plan here. Damien and Esty went on the block. Before the veto competition, Adam and Mark did have a plan to reel Kira in to make them feel more comfortable keeping Mark, even if Mark does go on the block. Damien then won the veto and is going to obviously use it on himself. But before that happens, Mark and Anthony are going to pitch a plan to have Dane be the replacement nominee. This plan initially sees some success, but ultimately does not succeed. And as part of the plan, the Pretty Boys pull Kira in and make a final 5 with them. So there is now a Pretty Boy plus Kira final 5. We've kind of known that this is gonna be what happened for a few weeks now, that this was their plan, but it is now official and it is a deal, and Kira feels very included, or at least partly included, in the game, not in pool, but in the game.
Melissa, if you want to be mad at somebody, Kira is the person you should be mad at. Kira holds all the cards this week, and everything comes down to whether or not Kira is included in things, and Kira has to be asked to do things. Kira has to be asked to play pool. If you don't, if their feelings are hurt, then they're not going to do what you want them to do. Like that's all this is about right now. For real. That's all it's about. Because Mark,
so ridiculous.
If Kira realized that they are evicting the one person in the game that they maybe could beat in ST, the one person in the game that they could maybe win a competition against in ST, they're going to evict ST in favor of these 4 assholes who are working together. And Kira's like, talking to Adam afterwards, like, oh, I thought you guys were just working together or making a 4-person alliance, and I just wasn't included in that, but I feel so great to be included in it. I'm sorry, like I have to listen to Taryn do his impressions on the morning update, so I get to do one every once in a while when I'm really irritated with Kira right now.
No, Kira's
it's all about her fucking feelings.
The whole thing is so ridiculous. It's so annoying. It's just like if like Kira, they hold all the power right now. They could literally, with one vote, get Mark out of the house, and instead they're like, "Wow, I'm a part of this alliance." But the whole time they've known that these 4 guys have been working together. So why are they thinking like, "Oh, cool, I'll just be like one last add-on to this super tight, super close 4-person alliance?" It just doesn't make any sense. It's just so dumb. I mean, honestly, Kira's if Kira turns and decides to vote Mark out this week at the last minute, that would be great.
That'd be good TV.
Because that would be, I'm into that idea. And I think it would be a better move for them anyway.
Well, here's part of it. I think that Kira genuinely cares for Adam, but I think another part of this too is that Kira does feel included with Adam. Like Adam is a cool kid. Kira is not a cool kid, and I think that the acceptance from Adam, at the very least in the Big Brother house, this is the case. And so the acceptance from Adam that they feel they haven't even earned, which only increases their insecurity with the relationship, because they feel like they only got it through Sam, but they now have this connection to Adam that is that is this great thing. They're finally accepted, they're included in things. I think that has a huge portion to do with what's happening here with Kira. And then another part of it, obviously, is that Dane is also involved. Dane is another cool kid, and Dane also accepts them, and they feel like they also got that relationship from their connection to Sam. And so Dane makes a fake final three with Adam, Kira, and himself, which only further makes them think like, not only am I with the cool kids, but I'm in the center of the cool kids. I'm with the 2 coolest of the kids. And I'm in a spot where I'm playing Anthony and Mark, and I'm going to get to the final 3, and both of these cool kids are going to take me to the final 2. This is great.
And add to that the fact that they hate, well, I shouldn't say hate, but they like Adam and Dane far more than they like Kira, I'm talking about, than they like Mark and Anthony. So it's like a double win. Like, yeah, they're the coolest of the cool kids who I get to sit with at the table. And oh, by the way, they happen to be my two favorite people in the house against this asshole over here named Mark, who is so awkward, and Anthony, who has been reading me the riot act, by the way. Anthony's your behavior right after you lost Corey and reaming out Kira left, right, and center. Not a good look, honey. Not a good look. I really, really didn't like that. And I thought you completed your assholeness by sitting down on the ground and saying, "Oh, am I not intimidating now?" Yeah, I didn't like that either. You see, I work, but I see things, Anthony. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you can't start a conversation sitting down and saying, "I'm going to sit down and whisper so I don't intimidate you," and then end the conversation with, "Kira! Kira!"
I just feel like I'm having so much trouble because there's nobody to root for at this point. And I just feel like I struggle when I don't have people to root for because it's no fun. And I also feel like this is another one of those seasons that we've been seeing recently where, everyone just gets picked off one by one and there's no opposition to it. And everyone just, when it's their turn to go, they just lay down and they take it and they go, goodbye, everybody, miss you. And that's the end of it. And that's just
it's a pleasure to play with you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so nobody cares. Does anybody care? Does anyone care about this? It's very frustrating to watch.
What I want is for Kira to realize that they can't evict Esty this week because that's their ticket to the win. Like, I feel like Kira's just securing their GOAT status at this point by doing what they're doing. Like, they just want Adam to win the game so bad, or at the worst case, Dane to win the game. So, like, they're cool going to the end. They think they're going to go to the end and be second place and maybe have a shot at the money. Probably not, but, get $20,000. And at least the person that they like will end up winning the game. I feel like here's the thing. I feel like that's the safe play, right? That's the safe play for them to do. The more risky path is to grab a couple of people like Damien, who obviously is in the house this week because he won the veto, and Esty, and save her this week and say, look, I feel like these guys are working together, and we won't go after Dane, and we're obviously I love Adam, so we're not going to go after him, but we really need to work together to get Mark and Anthony out of the house so that the boys have to choose us. Like, at least give yourself a chance to win. Like, that's what I want them to do. Kira, I'm talking about, but yeah, they don't want to do that.
That's the thing is that.
Yeah. And I will say this. Sorry, I just want to say one more thing. I don't feel like that if they did that, Taryn, if Kira actually did that, I don't feel like they would be in any worse position than what they're going to be if this plays out how they think it's going to play out.
I think I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think that one of the main issues that I have is that the only people who it seems like are playing to actually win the game are the pretty boys. Everybody else just seems to be like, okay, I just want to survive. I'm just hanging out. I want to hang out with my friends, whatever. Like, I want to get to jury, whatever. But nobody else seems to be playing to win, because if they were playing to win, they would be like, okay, I can't win against any of these people. So how do I get myself to the end with someone who I can have a good chance of winning against? Like, how do I make moves or do something to find a way to win? At this point, people are like, I just hope they take me to the final two so I can at least be there. Like, say something? But there's no way that they're going to win.
But Taryn, I think the problem is that the horse is out of the barn at this point. I mean, we are down to the final six.
Yeah.
Adam
earlier.
Well,
earlier I didn't see anybody playing to win besides the pretty boys earlier.
Yeah, they're just playing to survive, and maybe they sneak into a good position. I agree.
Right.
I think a lot of people
playing circles around that.
I think a lot of people have played to win. The problem is that as soon as they start, they got taken out of the game. I think that Kaylin was playing to win the game. I think that Laura was trying to play the game. I think Chelsea tried to play the game. Eddie was trying until he started to fail, and then he kind of started to lay down. But Sam was trying to play the game. Kira was trying to play the game. These people all failed, though. They ran up against a brick wall and they didn't know what to do. And I think that's what's happening. I didn't see any of them
play to win until the very, very tail end, when their butts are already halfway out the door.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Taryn.
Well, I mean, I think that they were trying to play, and that's what got them out the door. I think that's the problem, and I think that the major problem here, the reason why all these people that started to play the game got immediately cut down, is because the competitions have been so lopsided. I think that there are a lot of people left in the house that feel completely powerless because they've never tasted power their entire time, and they don't even come close to tasting power. And so you have people like Esty and Kira and even Damien to some extent who are sitting there thinking like, I would love to do something, but I can't win anything. It's impossible. That sense of anybody can get power is so key to what makes Big Brother successful. And I think
why has it been like that? I feel like it was like that last season too, where like Paris and Maddie and those guys like could never win anything, and they kept saying like, I want to do something if I win, but they would never win. And I feel like it's super similar to like Esty and Kiki and Damien, where they're like, I just can't win. Maybe they would do something if they did win.
It's the problem that Taryn talked about on his podcast with Kevin Martin, where the competition, the show is broken now. Once you get past final 9, final 8, like there's no way that if you're somebody who has any wherewithal whatsoever and you're a fan of the show, that you're going to lose either the HOH or the veto. You're just not. And so, there's no crapshooty competitions. Like, at least in Big Brother US, there are some crapshoot-esque competitions that come down the line, final 10, final 9, final 8, where anybody could win something. But they just don't do it here. I guess that's something to be said. At least you can always control your own fate in Big Brother Canada. As long as you have these two boys who have each other's back in Adam and Dane, and they're always working together. I just don't see
and
them.
they're always winning
because Adam, I feel like Dane's even in more. I'm sorry, I'm giving all my information about what I'm going to say about these guys, but I feel like Dane is in an even worse position than Adam. I feel like Adam's in the best position because Adam has Kira, and even if Adam ends up on the block, he's going to have Dane's vote. If Dane is off, like if Adam doesn't win the veto, then that means Dane probably won the veto. If Dane wins the veto, Dane ain't voting Adam out. Kira's not voting Adam out, so Adam's not going to go home. So I feel like that, it's good gameplay and it's good positioning. And I take your point, Melissa, that Adam didn't verbalize a lot of this analysis that we're doing right now. But position is king in Big Brother, and he has landed on what I believe to be the correct place in the game position-wise for him to be. And I feel like that has to be given some kudos.
I think he's landed in a good position, but like, I don't know if I can fully say that he intended to be in this exact position. I think that it's possible that he just landed there and that just so happened. And now after the fact, we're saying like, oh, he's doing a good job. He's in a good position. But was he really doing any of this, or would he have just stayed loyal to the Pretty Boys no matter if that would have been a good position or a bad position for him? I think he would have done that. I think he would have stayed loyal to them.
For the record, I have always been very high on Adam's game, much higher than everyone else.
You have, that's true.
I have been consistent with this opinion.
Yes, you have.
Well, I just really quickly want to say that speaking of crapshoot competitions, I've always hated crapshoot competitions, and I've always wanted to get rid of them because I was like, it's just anybody can win, and it's just there's no skill to it, there's no nothing. It's just it's a crapshoot. But now after seeing this, I'm a proponent of crapshoot competitions. Maybe not all the way, but like not every single.
I will say this. Let me tell you. I don't know if I've ever brought this up before, but I last time that I was in RHAP, I went home a day early, and they had the podcast house I'm talking about. I just got back from podcast house, but the previous one I'm talking about, the people at podcast house, Taryn, and all of our friends, I can't name because I don't want to name one person because I'm sure I'll forget somebody and then they'll all be mad at me. But they decided to play a game of Big Brother around the dinner table, and all of the HOHs were determined by random. They were all crapshoots. Like they were just. If they weren't, I would have won. Random number generator kind of thing, where anybody could win HOH at any given time. The veto is determined by randomness. And to hear every single one of those people talk, it was the best. It was so freaking fun because you have to make sure your social game is in order because you never know who's going to get power. But see, these people, they don't have to worry about stuff like that. They have a pretty good idea of who's going to have power. So they don't really have to be nice to Mark or Anthony, people who don't win many competitions, or even Kira. Anthony could shit all over Kira because he doesn't have to worry about the fact that they're going to win anything. Because they know, but like in something like that, so to sum it up, I'm with you. I used to be somebody who was like that. And Taryn was always more in the I like crapshooty competitions camp because he appreciated the randomness of it that required people to have their social games in order. I was like you, Melissa, where I'm like, oh, I don't like the fact that you can't control it. It seems like you should have some control in the Big Brother game. But I have definitely flipped my opinion on that. The robot is right on that one.
Just time and time again.
Yeah, oh, God, you shouldn't have said that, Brent.
Well, it's true. On that particular point, he is.
So ultimately what we see happen this week is Damien takes himself off the block. Adam does, in fact, nominate Mark as the replacement. And the current plan is for Dane to vote for Esty to stay, Damien to vote for Esty to stay. But they are working on trying to change that. And then Kira and Anthony will vote Mark out. Adam will break the tie, will vote Esty out. Adam will break the tie to evict Esty. And so, like I said, they are trying to work on Damien's vote, so Kira doesn't even have the option to flip. But as it stands right now, Kira does not have any intention of flipping. So the vote should be either 2-2 or 3-1, and very little chance that Esty does not leave here this week, Brent.
Yeah. That would be very fun if Esty didn't leave this week. But I feel like it's probably going to be Esty leaving this week. I feel like we just don't get things that we want in this season of Big Brother, Taryn. So if Kira decides that they're going to stick with this final five, and like more than anything that has irritated me, Melissa, is the fact that Kira has been all about this final five. And I'm like, you're such a dumbass. Like, you do realize that after the double eviction on Thursday, there's only 5 people left in the game. Like, you're making a deal that effectively has a 48-hour expiration date. I mean, there's no place to go. What are you doing? You know, I did feel a little bit better about their decision to go forward with this once Adam and Dane did what they did as far as final 3 with Kira goes. And then they're like, oh God, that makes me feel even better because now I'm at the cool kids table. But like, once I heard that Kira made a final 5 with the boys, I was like, this ship has sailed, man. And Este's going home, even though because I was at work when this is happening. I had to go back and watch it. And I'm like, how can Kira vote out Este on Thursday? And Nikki, who is in the chat, was like, they just made a final 5 with the boys. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, that bites. And then, of course, I know how Kira is about wanting to be included. And this week that's all this week has been about Kira wanting to be included in something. So once that happened, the ship is gone.
Yeah. So let's talk about the state of the house here. Mostly the same as it was before. We have a little shift in terms of the amount of influence people have in the house. The pretty boys remain the entire house. Adam, Dane, Anthony, Mark, and the factions remain a little bit the same as well. You got Mark more aligned with Anthony, and you got Adam and Dane who are kind of also working together in conjunction, but you know, that won't necessarily last all the way down to the end. And then we do have a couple of side alliances now, with Kira included into the final 5 with the pretty boys, and then this fake final 3 as well between Adam, Dane, and Kira. Adam and Dane have also talked about proposing a final 3 with Damien in order to get him on board and make sure that he doesn't target them. And I do think I saw some people saying like Damien's not going to switch his vote. Damien's not going to be on board with this. They plan essentially on telling Damien like the votes aren't there. Adam, I'm going to be breaking the tie to evict Este anyway. I was the assassin. I saved you. I want, boys to stick together. I want to work together here. So, let's make this happen. So, I do think it's possible because Damien has no reason to stay there and vote for Este, even though she's leaving anyway. He might as well make a deal with the 2 biggest competition threats left in the game. There's no downside for him at that point.
Yeah, so I'm like, Damien's not gonna, vote the other way when he knows that, what the result's gonna be. His name isn't Eddie. Come on.
So there you go. So then we have the influence here. Dane still has the most amount of influence from my perspective. He does have Este, who will be leaving, but she is fully loyal to Dane. They apparently made out during the party. So a lot of people are like, oh, she's going to be extra bitter. But personally, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think Este's a vote for Dane.
I think so too.
Yeah, then you got Damien, who is also very loyal to Dane. That's a number for him. You have Kira, who now he is in this final 3 with. Kira feels good about that final 3 and is willing to go far with that. However, I'm literally just looking over. Kira is talking to the camera saying, Dane is very suspicious. I don't trust him. He's thrown a lot of competitions. He feels good. He shouldn't. So I don't know what that means, but I doubt that Kira would go against Adam. And I do think that Kira is okay with Dane moving forward, more so than Mark or Anthony. Then you have Adam, who is with Dane and working with Dane. He aligns a lot more closely with Dane than he does with Mark or Anthony. Adam has a final 2 with Dane, and I think Adam, if given the option, would probably choose Dane to take to the final 2. And they've talked about like the 2 best players in the house. What a showdown! What a legendary finish. So I think that might be what Adam plans. It's certainly what Dane feels comfortable with. So those are the people I do feel are under Dane's influence here, with the most amount of influence, but not always the strongest and not necessarily in the best spot, because through that influence he is a little more threatening than some of the other players, Brent.
Yes, and that's also a reason why I think that Anthony and Mark are looking more at Dane as far as being a target moving forward over Adam, when in my mind it really should be Adam. I feel like Adam is a more dangerous person, and I also feel like Adam is a more likable person as far as the jury is concerned, especially when you look at who is on the jury and who will be on the jury. Like, I know that Corey's on the jury. Maybe she says she isn't going to vote for Adam, but I think she could vote for Adam in the end. And I also feel like Adam is likable enough. He could probably get her vote in the end, even if she wasn't predisposed to vote for him. So that's not good for Dane, that he currently looks at as a more appetizing target to the people who are not currently under his fold. However, you still have to like his position in the game because, I mean, given the way the people that are remaining in the game, also the fact that the number one, to my mind, his number one ally in the game, aside from Esty, who's leaving this week most likely, is Adam, and he's the next biggest comp threat in the game. They're most likely to control anything moving forward, and so I don't think he's going to have anything to worry about. But if something funky happens and Mark wins HOH, basically what needs to happen for Dane to go out, for Dane to be in trouble moving forward, and not have any backup, is for Mark to win HOH, and then for either Adam or Dane not to win the veto.
Yeah, if Mark wins HOH, and if Dane, Adam, Damien, or Kira don't win the veto, meaning Anthony wins. So if Mark wins the HOH, and if he decides to take a shot, and if Anthony wins the veto, then one of Adam or Dane will go home.
I just remembered that HOH doesn't get to play until Final 5 for the veto. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry. I thought once you're done the final 6, I thought HOH could play for the veto. Like, I thought Mark could win the veto as well, but not if he's HOH. He can't. So that bites, man. That's a really tough road to hoe. I like Dane's chances even more now.
Yeah, I said this before. Mark cannot take his shot at Final 6. He has to wait until Final 5 because he will miss. There's just so many different variables that will get in his way. So then next up, we've got Adam, who has Kira. Kira is fully loyal to Adam at this point. I do think that Kira feels like they might have a chance if they get to the finals. They were just talking to Anthony earlier about, like, I have been playing this game. I've just gotten smarter about it. So I feel like they're trying to plant seeds here, but I do think that they would. Yes, I do think that they would take Adam there to the end, and then Adam also has Dane, who he has a final 2 with. I believe Dane will take Adam to the final 3, even if he doesn't take him to the final 2. Although if I think that Dane's preference of people to take to the final 2 are Anthony first, then Adam, then Mark at this point. He's really backed away from that Mark decision from last week. I think that was really in the moment. Then he's going to be working on Damien. We'll see if that's somebody that he can get, but that is a potential person that Adam will have on his side moving into next week, if he is able to make that happen, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just feel like there are so many. It's crazy to me that this is a double eviction and we're about to lose. Like, we're about to get down to basically just the pretty boys and one other, unless something crazy happens at this double eviction. And I think, honestly, I want it to end up getting down to just the pretty boys +1, because at this point, I don't think that anybody else deserves to be there. If I'm being totally honest, I don't think Kira deserves to be there. I don't think, maybe Damien, because he won that veto and he kept himself there. I don't know, but I just feel like, okay, yeah, I see the chat right now. Everyone's saying that I've had it, and that's true.
I said you've had it. I was just thinking,
and they said it's all over her face. I have just had it. If I'm being completely honest, I just feel like I'm so over it. I want it to. I keep saying, as we keep getting down the stretch, I keep saying, like, okay, well, now the real game's going to start. And it's never starting. It's never going to start until we're down to the final 4. And at that point, it's like, it's over.
Yeah, I know, right?
I feel like the game has been going on. I think that getting Sam out was the game. I think that this Corey versus Damien battle last week was a lot of game. This week has slowed back down, but I do think that those 2 weeks were fairly aggressive in terms of gameplay.
They really were.
Yeah.
I mean, Melissa, the reason nothing's happening this week is because both people think they're safe. That's the problem. I mean, like, if one had an inkling that they knew they were in trouble, then there would be fireworks going. Esty would be campaigning her ass off. Unlike Kiki, by the way, on Twitter, I see you saying campaigning is hard, but being evicted is harder. And she's talking about how hard she campaigned. Bitch, you campaigned hard to the cameras. You campaigned hard to Canada. You did not campaign hard to the rest of the House.
That's
guests
not campaigning.
She gave them
And
all
also-
kinds of presentations, Brent.
Oh yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, real
very,
great.
very well done.
Very well done. She'll be promoted. But for real though, like I just think that the problem is that you guys are like, oh, but there is gameplay going on. And yeah, it's gameplay, but it's one versus one. It's like one minion versus the other minion. It's like these little teeny battles where it's like there's no actually going against the forces that are running this house. Like there's nothing where people are realizing like, oh, these guys are all running the house. And then anytime you think people are noticing it, like Kiki or, or Chelsea or Sam or Kira, they would then be like, yeah, but we don't need to worry about that. Like, yeah, but they won't go against us. And so nobody is going against them. Like no one's going against the pretty boys. We just have little battles being fought between the people who don't matter. So it's like, oh, who's going to go home? This person or this person? It's like, we don't care because none of you matter. You're all going to go out one after another. Like it doesn't matter. They're not going to win the game. So let's just get these people out. Like you both can leave,
I finally figured it out, y'all. I have to say, like, Melissa has blue balls. That's what she's tired of this foreplay. Okay, she wants to get to it. God damn it!
I want the big battle. I really do.
She has had it.
She's sick of the lead-up episodes. She's ready for the Battle of Winterfell.
That's exactly what this is. It's like Game of Thrones, where it's like I've been saying like these Game of Thrones episodes are so boring because nothing's happening. It's just like, and everyone's like, but it's the lead-up. It's the lead-up. They all know they're gonna die. It's like, yeah, but like, well then die already. Like let's just get to it. Like I don't need to see all this like emotionality and you being like, like, oh man, like it's the last time we're gonna see each other. It's like, just do it. Come on. That's how I feel. You guys are right.
What can I say? I like the build up.
He's coming for you, Melissa.
Yeah, people were talking about Melissa. Like Melissa's face, like 5 minutes ago was like the face that I'd be like, hey Melissa, are you okay? Like, do you need to get out of here?
You pause the podcast.
Chad is always looking at your face.
You're like, hey, no one can hear us. Really quick, like one-on-one.
Dude, I can make an excuse. We can leave. It's fine.
You're like, well, guys, gotta go.
So there you go. That was Adam. Anthony's influence has definitely gone quite down from his previous weeks. He still has Mark, who I do think is loyal to him for now. Though I do, of course, still think that Mark could cut Anthony at the end if he feels like that's in his best interest. I don't know what his end game plans are. And then he does have Dane to some extent as well, because as I mentioned, I do believe that Dane now plans on keeping Anthony around over Mark and honoring his final 2 deal with Anthony, I think. He's not been entirely clear about it, but he has basically talked about his plan is to cut Mark at Final 4 to take Adam and Anthony to the Final 3 because both of them would take him. I don't know for sure which one he takes. He's talked about how Adam has a bad social game, and so, maybe he can beat him there. And Anthony has a great social game, but Anthony hasn't won any competitions, and Adam has won a lot of competitions. So my inclination is that he's more willing to take Anthony. But I don't know if he's even like 100% decided yet at this point, Brent.
I don't think he is either. I still think he's waiting for more info. He wants to see how things shake out. I agree with your assessment that it was Mark and now it's moved back to Anthony, just based on how he was talking to SD and the way that he has just the way he's just talked in general about Mark and Anthony. It leads me to believe that Anthony is the person that he wants to take to the end. And by the way, I think you were talking with, I can't remember if it was Amon or maybe the person the day before, maybe when you were talking with the chat, Taryn, about Anthony in a possible jury situation. I think he does have the potential to really turn people off. I don't know that people. I think it was Amon. Amon said that he does really well socially. Like not lately. Like he hasn't. Anthony, I'm talking about. He hasn't done great socially lately. So I don't know how he's doing. Especially if like the juries always come at you, even if they're going to vote for you. I do feel like they come at you a little bit. Like why did you do this, or why didn't you do this, or what was your what was your best game move? Like, you know, or you didn't win any competitions, Anthony. Why should we vote for you? I can see him getting really pissy. Yeah, I don't know if I believe in him in a final two, and I think Dane should probably think about taking him.
Yes, we also learned from Dane today that he is planning on throwing again the next HOH, which I do think is probably the right move for Dane. He doesn't really need it, probably. So that's another one of his plans. Nikki was saying he was counting votes. Was he counting jury votes? Because I did see him talking by himself in the Have Not, but I did not see the vote counting. So if he was, then you can either give us that information in the chat, or I will have it for you tomorrow morning for the update. But we know some of Dane's plans. So then we also have Mark, who of course has no influence. Mark is he's connected to Anthony because he'll like do what Anthony says for the most part, but you know, this is basically all he has. Nikki says yes, he was counting jury votes against Adam. Give me more details, Nikki.
Need
so there
more.
You go. There you go. That's what they have going on in the house. Dane is still with the most amount of connections, the most amount of options, but Adam is also set up pretty well. And then Anthony and Mark really start their options are starting to get a little more limited here. And Mark in particular is I think in a pretty nasty spot here. But we'll talk about all of that as we move into the stock watch. You guys ready for this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, apparently when I yell really loud, the microphone goes out for a second. I think the mic the mic can't handle me, y'all.
It's not powerful enough, like my mic.
I'll talk to Rob about that. But apparently I drop out every now and then when I talk really loud. So I will try to keep it under control. By the way, I saw somebody in the chat earlier who had listened to our podcast at Podcast House and was like, I liked Quiet Rent. That was shade, y'all. I heard that in the chat. Shady. I like Quiet. But Melissa, did you? Oh, you were there for us.
Melissa was just doing a sneaky Pretty Boys.
Yes, exactly. Did you see that? She was doing that. Did you mean to do that?
When
you were doing this, like you had your head in your hand,
Oh.
doing like the Pretty Boys thing.
No, I was not. I just, you know. Doing what?
It's all been a ruse. She's trying to tank the stock so she can buy it all up.
Mwahaha.
All right, you guys ready for the stock watch?
Yes, let me bring it up. Go ahead.
All right, so here we go. This is of course the time in the podcast we're gonna rate everyone's game out of 10, yeah, that's just how they're doing in the game. And we're gonna start with Adam this week, who is our HOH. Brent, you've been talking Adam up this episode. How do you feel about Adam? Last week, you gave him a 6.
I did. This week, I'm giving him an 8, and I want to give him a 9. I really do. I want to give him a 9, but I'm just nervous about that. And also, I want to give him a little room to grow. Maybe that sounds bad, but I feel like an 8 is probably the proper rating for him. As I have mentioned previously, I don't want to repeat myself. He's put himself in a prime position here. He's even supplanted Dane in terms of being the favorite to win it all in my mind. I don't know what his ultimate endgame plan is, but I do think he could probably beat anybody on the board, including Dane. Obviously, Dane is his toughest beat, but even that is doable from his standpoint. I really wish he would take Kira to the end. I think that would be great. And then he would definitely have the money. But damn, like he has really played a remarkable game. It's not the game that I wanted him to play. It's not the game that we all want to watch, but it has been a game to watch from his standpoint. He's never really been in danger. Even when Mark was going after him, I was like, how is Adam going to leave? I really didn't see a way. Obviously, with that whole assassin thing coming back in, maybe it could have, even if he was on the block post veto, maybe that could have saved him, or maybe that could have sent Mark home with only 4 people voting. I don't know. But he has just never, ever been in danger. He's one of, I love the fact that he used the woman as the shield. A lot of times it's the woman using the man as a shield, but Adam totally had Sam as a shield the entire time until she was finally taken out of the game. He is in a prime position to win. I really hope he does. I know that Melissa, you said that you're not rooting for anybody at this point. Adam is a really likable guy to me.
Out of all of them, I prefer Adam to win. Yeah. I'm just not like, we got to get an Adam win. Like, I'm just kind of like.
He's worked his ass off. This was his baby. I mean, mean, I feel like the story needs to end with him winning. But he's gonna have to win a few comps down the road here. And also, he is very like, it's still astounding to me, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, that like people like Dane and Adam, who are so good at competitions, like the fact that they are still in the game at this point and not really looked at as somebody who we need to get out. I mean, I know Mark and Anthony are thinking a little bit about getting Dane out, but like they should have been thinking about this a long time ago to get these guys out of the game. And it's because these boys have controlled everything. So that's why he gets such a good score.
Yeah, Melissa, how do you think? What do you think?
Gosh.
What'd you give him last week? You gave him a 6.
I gave him a 6.
I also gave him a 6.
Everyone gave him 6s except for me. Last week, I gave him a 7.
I just feel like he's I don't like the movies making, but it ends up putting him in a good position. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me because he's in a good position and he is in a good position to win the game, but he's not playing well in my opinion. Like he's not a good player right now in my opinion. So just because he's stumbling backwards into a good position, it's hard for me to give him such a great score when I don't know. I mean, it's also like, okay, I'm also comparing him against the other people in the house and he's playing a lot better than they are. So I want to give him a good score. But then I'm thinking back to like, are we comparing this to past seasons where we're sitting there giving like Tyler like 8s and 9s? Like, I just feel like I don't, it's hard for me to give him a similar score to what I gave to Tyler because I feel like all of Tyler's moves were really calculated and really well done. And this just, I'm not seeing it. So, I don't know.
To be fair, at this point in the game, we were giving Tyler 10s.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't feel like, to be fair, like I said, not to throw shade on him, but as I do, Tyler, not all of Tyler's game was, magical, Melissa. Obviously, throwing Final Four veto was his downfall, and that's something that he intentionally did. So it's not like, he was walking on water the entire time. Even he had a bad read on the game in terms of what he needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, near the end, I just feel like at this point, I wasn't thinking it, but I guess. He is setting himself up for a good week if he stays this week, but he's also setting himself up in a good position to stay for the double. So, I'll give him an 8.
All right.
A reluctant 8.
A reluctant 8. No, that's something that I've been, considering in terms of, how to weight the ratings as well. Tyler is a good, point of reference because, we were giving him 9s, 8s, and 10s throughout most of the season. And I do feel like, I do feel like Tyler is better than anybody that we've seen in this season. And so I don't find it particularly likely that I'm going to give anybody a 10, and the 9s are kind of sparse a little bit, but I do feel like 9 is an appropriate rating for somebody that dominates the game in the way that all of the pretty boys are doing, except for maybe Mark. So I don't feel too uncomfortable going with a 9. And I will say, I have all season long, if you look at the little chart here, every single week, I have always been the highest on Adam, without fail, all season long. Not going to keep that streak going this time, though. I can't go up to a 9 here for Adam. I'm going to go with an 8 as well. I like where he is. I feel like he is one of the top contenders for the win at this point. And I do think that, we're really looking at a potential Adam victory. But he's not playing as well as, like, he doesn't have such a stranglehold that maybe we saw Dane is having last week, or Anthony the week before, or Tyler, the weeks that he had 9s, the level of gameplay he was doing. I feel like this is a solid 8 from Adam. He's very good at the competitions. He's in a great spot to win. Maybe this could go up to a 9. I think that if Adam gets to the Final Four, he's up to a 9 just on competition prowess alone, probably for me. But there you go. I no longer am gonna be the highest rated person here on Adam, but it will complete the streak here because the audience also went with an 8 for Adam, which is straight 8s. And Adam is going to go.
It's really saying something about the people that respond to this survey, I will say, because, we were all pissed at Adam for doing what he's doing, nominating Damian and Esty, not targeting Mark, having the fake Mark backdoor plan. But the fact that the people who respond to this survey are learned enough to realize that Adam is making the correct move here and putting himself in a really great position to win the game. Good job, y'all. I like that.
There you go. So yes, it's the highest rating that Adam has received all season long. Is the 8 here for Adam. So there you go. Next up is Esty, who last week was at a 3, and this week I am going to be real harsh on Esty. I am going to go ahead. And I've done this a few times this season, and I feel like it's kind of rare, but this season it's been very, very common, unfortunately. But I'm dropping the one hammer on Esty this week. I feel like she is basically a goner this week, and even if she did stay, all of the jurors have been placing her in last place in their rankings of who they would vote for. She's basically doing nothing to help her cause. She thinks that she's good and she's not. I'm going with the one here for Esty. You know, Esty is a player who has consistently, she was at 5s all the way until week 4, and then recently started dropping from the 5. She was always a player that had potential to go up from the 5, but she bided her time. She kept waiting, and she ran out of runway, and now she dropped to a 3. And now for this week, I'm dropping her down to a 1. Melissa, what do you think?
I'm gonna give her a 2 because I could see a situation where last minute Kira decides to flip and keep her. While I don't necessarily see her winning, I just don't know if I really want to say that she's completely out for the count. And I feel like she's not necessarily on Mackie's level, where I think I gave him a 1. So I'm just gonna give Esty a 2.
Oh, boy, I'm really torn here. I wrote down a number, but then I listened to Taryn, and I'm kind of agreeing with him. I'm sorry.
I can give the audience rating first if you need more time. Well, the audience here is at a solid 2 for Esty. They were at a 3
really matter what I do
last week.
Yeah. Just for kicks, I'm gonna give her the 1. I'm gonna give her the
There
1.
it is.
She deserves the 1. She really does, for all the reasons that Taryn said. She's just, she could have been the goddess that we all believed in, and instead she's just a total flop. She's done nothing in the game. People don't even like her. They might tolerate her. She might be a cool person to hang out with, but as far as the game goes, she's had no agency in whatever happens within the game. Even with the Corey thing, that was by way of a twist. That was because of Adam, and he was the secret assassin. I mean, leave it to Esty to find all of those numbers and all those things that Adam did. You know, we'd still be waiting for her for heaven's sake. So, yeah, she deserves the 1.
Yeah.
Talk to it, Taryn.
She's the weakest player in the house at Final 7, and she's being evicted.
How does that happen?
Absurd.
That really speaks to how bad your game is.
So there you go. That was Esty. She's gonna stay afloat here. The stock is not gonna be frozen because she will stay at a 2, but it is gonna go down from the 3 last week. Next up is Mark. Let's talk about Mark. Melissa, let's start with you.
I'm gonna stick with my 3 for Mark because I don't think he's a 2 at Esty's level, because he's not going well. He might go home this week, who knows? But he's not. I just don't feel like he is. I don't see Kira turning on him, and he was somehow able to, stay in his same position after his horrible week last week. So I'm just gonna give him a 3 still.
Brent.
I mean, this is really tough. Like,
I can go first again.
No, I'm just like, because I have a number. Like, okay, I'm gonna go with the number that I'm gonna stop listening to you people, because I have a number and I wrote it down. This is how I feel. Okay, I gave Mark a 5.
Oh.
Right? I gave Mark a 5. I gave him a 3 last week, and I gave him a 5. Look, I feel like you have to really take a look at the game board. Look, I know, I realize a couple things. Let me get the cons out of the way first. I realize his social game is shit. I realize he has a tough road to hoe as far as winning the game goes. However, you cannot argue with the fact that he's placed himself in a better position than what we thought he was in last week when I gave him a rating of a 3. He's moved himself up. The pretty boys are loyal. He's not going to be evicted this week. He has somehow managed. He like all of the things he tried to do, he went ahead and did. I do think that Taryn has a point when he was talking on the updates about the fact that Mark should be fighting like hell to not be on the block in this particular situation where he's depending on the vote of someone like Kira, where it's all about their feelings in order for him to stay at the final 7. I do think that it has some merit to it. But on the other hand, I do feel like this tie vote is going to go through. Mark will remain in the House. Damian will likely be evicted, and Mark will have his opportunity to win. If look at it from my standpoint. If Mark can make his way through the final 6, Damian's evicted to the final 6. If he can win an HOH or final 5, take his shot. It doesn't matter if he puts Adam and Dana, puts them both up on the block. No matter what happens with the veto, one of them is there. Post veto, him and Anthony can evict whoever they want, get rid of one of those threats, and then they only have one more threat moving forward. Also, I know that Mark is a bit of a douche, but I do feel like that if he gets to the end with Anthony, I feel like he's got a fighting shot. And I feel like we also have to allow for the possibility of a bitter jury. I know that Taryn was talking on the update about the fact that this isn't going to be a bitter jury, but then he started counting and he was like, oh, maybe it will be a bitter jury. So I feel like there's a possibility. Look, juries are unpredictable. I do not like writing someone off just because we all think he's a douche. He is a bit of a douche, but he's also a good talker that sounds kind of awkward sometimes, but I don't put it past him to put together something to say that he needs to do, make the moves that he needs to make and put together a speech that he needs to say in order to win the game. So looking at everybody else, I feel like a 5 is a pretty, like if Adam's an 8, I do feel like Mark is about at a low 5 right now.
Well,
what'd you give him?
I was thinking hard about this. I'm a little, I was going for a 2. You made some arguments here. The problem I have with Mark is that I feel like he is almost drawing dead at this point because even if he gets to the final 4 with the Pretty Boys, he's the first target among the Pretty Boys, and I don't think he can beat any of the Pretty Boys in the final 2. He definitely can't beat Dane. He definitely can't beat Adam, and I don't think he can beat Anthony either. I think that he's seen as Anthony's puppet. So he needs to get to the end with Kira, and that's just such a huge task. Like, I don't see how he's capable of doing that. Even if he gets to the final 5 with Adam and Kira, or let's say he gets to the final 5 with Damien, maybe he manages to take out Dane or Adam. Kira is still working more with Anthony or Dane or Adam or whichever one stays, and he can't protect himself and his goat. I don't see his path to the end. And as Tax says in the chat, I too think that Kira could even potentially beat Mark. I don't know how he beats anyone. Maybe with Anthony and the jury controlling Corey's vote, he can beat. I don't know, because that's only 2 votes. When I was talking about a potentially better jury, I was talking about Anthony, Mark and Corey. Yeah. And so I just don't see it right now. And he's even lost his final 2 GOAT status from last week, where people were willing to take him. Dane wants him gone at final 4 now. So I really feel like he's done. I feel like, barring any kind of, crazy shift in the jury or really great maneuvering, I don't know. I just don't see it right now. So I'm going to stick with my 2. I don't feel good. I don't feel good about Mark.
What did the audience do? I would really like for the audience to give him a 4. That would be like 2, 3, 4, 5.
Brent, they were so close. It was a very close vote.
All right.
But they did go with a 3 for Mark. So the 3, 2, and 5 for Mark this week. Maybe I'm low on Mark, but I don't know.
Okay.
I felt confident going in.
It's fine if we disagree. Like, I'm totally fine with that. What does it end up giving his rating as? I don't see the live rating.
That's a 3 average. So Mark is not moving.
Okay, fabulous. And I do not buy Mark stock, so that's not why I'm giving him a Mark stock.
All right. So Next up, we have Damien, who last week was at a
I don't think I did.
3.
I don't know if I did or not. I honestly forget what I did.
It would have been a risky buy, as Mark I think could have left this week. I mean, Mark is going to be able to potentially leave every week from this point on, I think. But next up is Damien. Brent and myself gave Damien 3s. The audience gave him a 2 last week, and Melissa gave him a 4. So he averaged out at a 3 there. So I will start here with Damien. I also gave Damien a 2 here. I think that Damien also at this point close to drawing dead. I think that he can win a jury vote, but I think he's even less capable than Mark of getting to the end. I think that Damien is likely going to leave in the double. If he doesn't leave in the double, I think he's going to leave at final 5. If he doesn't leave at final 5, I think he's going to leave at final 4. Basically, Damien needs to Kevin Martin his way to the end at this point, I believe, and I don't think he's capable of doing that based on what we've seen so far. And then even if he does get to the end, which I don't think is likely, I do think he can win a jury vote, unlike Mark, but I think even then it's not a guarantee. I think he has votes like Corey, maybe, but he doesn't. I mean, from what we've seen from Sam, he doesn't have Sam's vote as a guarantee. He doesn't have. I think a lot of people talk about Damien like he's done nothing in the game. They don't respect his game. Kira doesn't respect his game. Anthony doesn't respect his game. So I really just I don't see it. So I'm giving Damien a 2 as well. I love the guy, but what are you gonna do here, Melissa? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't feel as good about him as I did last week. Even though he did, win veto. I mean, that's great, but it doesn't really change his position very much. And if anything, he's losing SD this week, and that's worse for him. So I'm going to give him a 3.
All right, Brent.
Yeah, I had written down 3. I can hear your 2, Taryn. I think that's fair. But the fact that he could win at the end, also him and Adam have been getting along lately. I know he's likely to go out at final 6, and it could certainly still happen that way. But if something fluky happens at the final 6, and Damien wins an HOH, somebody goes home who shouldn't go home, all of a sudden Mark and Anthony are up on the block. Hell if I know what would happen here with Damien. I think there's a way he could snake his way to the end. Also, I keep going back to this. Like, it's kind of how I feel about Mark. Like, I have to believe that a guy who's this athletic, who's this smart, who is this likable, could actually win a competition when he needs to. And I realize he won a competition here. Basically, Adam wasn't in it and Dane was throwing it. That's how he won. But, like, you can't be that bad. Like, you're not, like, Kira levels of bad, Damien. Like, come on, do something here. So I gave him a 3, so I'm going to stick with my 3.
All right, there you go. The audience is kind of all over the place here with Damien. Last week, giving him a 2, and now we know that Damien was looking like he was going home last week, so that probably had a lot to do with it. But this week, they are back up to a 4 with Damien, I think, riding high from this veto win. And, certainly Damien could win the next HOH with Dane throwing it and Adam not being in it. It's definitely possible, but again, even if he does, it's like, he's just going to leave in the next week. It's just, he's always going to be the target until all the way down to the end.
What he needs to have happen is for him. This is. I'll paint the picture, as Rob says, for Damien to win the game. Damien needs to win the next HOH, or obviously the veto. That would be fine too. But he needs to be safe by way of a power next week, either HOH or veto. Then he needs Mark to win the final 5 HOH and take his shot at Dane and Adam. That way Damien would be safe. And then somehow that causes angst amongst the pretty boys. Adam's now pissy with Mark. He wants to get rid of him. Mark made his big move, so he's seen as more of a jury threat now. And maybe Damien can make his way to the end that way. That's the best I got for you.
Squeezes his way to the final 3 and then pulls out a win. But
maybe it's taken. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and that for me, that is what a 2 is. He has like one narrow path to the end, and that's basically it in my view. So let's talk about Dane next. Dane, who last week got 9s from myself and Brent. Melissa went with an 8, as did the audience. So how do we feel about Dane this week, Brent?
I went down a little bit on Dane, but not a lot. I gave him an 8, which is the same score that I gave Adam. Basically, the way I'm looking at it, I gave Adam a high 8, and I'm giving Dane a low 8s, but in the end, it's still the same score. I gave him a 9 last week, and I'm giving him an 8 this week because he's losing a piece off the game board, and he doesn't seem like he's doing a whole hell of a lot to keep that piece. Like, if I was Dane, I would really be trying to keep SD in the house, maybe say something to Kira at the last minute. I also, I know that we were bagging on Adam for being so loyal to the pretty boys. I also feel like Dane is a little too loyal to the pretty boys. Like, he should want to get Mark out of the house here. And also, Mark is the guy, just wrap your head around this fact. Dane might vote to keep the guy in the house over his showmance in favor of a guy who might ultimately take him out of the game. That is what he is doing this week. So by definition, he is in a worse position than he was last week. So it's an 8 for me.
Yes, I'm with you, actually. I think that Dane was in a great spot last week. He had a lot of options, and this week has not played out in the way that is optimal for Dane. I think that Dane has an opportunity in front of him, a path that we've kind of talked about before. I think Dane is perfectly capable of convincing Adam, you know what? It's time to remove Mark from the board. I think that Adam might resist it because he wants the pretty boys in the final 4, but Dane,
I don't. Go ahead. Sorry.
Dane has plenty of ammunition to use against Mark.
Yes.
So I do think he's capable of it. And if he is able to talk Adam into doing this, it puts Dane in a crushing position, the same crushing position that we had him in last week. He's kind of letting that piece go. If Anthony held on too hard to his piece, Dane is not holding on quite hard enough, I think. And so I am also going to downgrade him just slightly here to an 8. I think that both him and Adam are somewhat equally positioned to take the win at the end. I think that they are the two front runners at this point, and I could see them, if they both stay. And again, if Dane stays until the final 4, I think he probably goes up to a 9 for me, just by likelihood of like him or Adam are basically winning the game at that point. So it's an 8 for me. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said, and I just think I think the way Dane is doing this is with Essie is not great for him moving forward with the jury because first of all, he's like making out with her and then sending her out the door, and that she's going to find out about the pretty boys and all that sort of thing. So she's going to know that he was lying to her the whole time. Not only that, we saw Mark's goodbye message last week where he just like chucked Dane underneath the bus, and I could see him doing that again. And making Dane look really bad to Essie, and possibly Dane not explaining himself in his goodbye message to her or before she goes. And then she finds out from other people, and it just looks really bad. I could see a situation where maybe before she's like, that's gameplay. But then there's a situation where you've thrown in like feelings with like this makeout and all that. Like that might be bad or make it worse, I guess. So it makes me really worried about this. And also the fact that he, like you guys said, he's letting her go, and he should be fighting more to keep her, not as much as Anthony, but he should be at least resisting this a little, and there's easy ways around it. So I'm going to give him a 7.
I was laughing at the chat going, enough foreplay, Melissa. Give it to us. They want the score, damn it.
All right. Well,
yes, by the way, before you give the audience a vote, I agree with you. He has the ammunition. All he has to do is go to Adam and give him the tea on what was really happening, not only last week, but the week before with Sam and how all that went down. Like, Dane has all of that information. He can totally get rid of Mark. And that would, Melissa, I know you would join with me in standing Dane if he actually managed to flip Adams.
Oh, if he could pull this off,
get Mark out of the house,
that would be a great move. Oh, and it makes sense for his game. I just
it does.
It's not just us being like, we want drama. It really does make sense for his game.
Yes. I think his biggest obstacle with Adam is the potential for Adam to be like, but the final 4 pretty boys. But I think the way to convince Adam, if you're Dane, is you're like, dude, we're not the pretty boys. We're the renegades. We're going to get to the final 2. And this is our way to do it. Mark is our biggest competition. And I think Adam starts to think about that. He's like, oh, they're the renegades. Yeah. And Kira's our Jerry. Okay. So, but he's not doing that. The audience went with an 8 for Dane, same as their rating last week. It was kind of a close vote here, but they are staying with their 8, which will drop Dane down from a 9 to an 8, which I think is mostly appropriate here. Next up, we're going to talk about Kira. Kira, who got 4s from me, Brent, and the audience. Melissa had a 5 for Kira. So, Melissa, let's start with you. Are you still up there at a 5 for Kira, or have you gone down?
Ugh, no, I'm not there anymore. Sorry, Kira. I still like Kira as a person. I do, but not great gameplay. I understand that it's a situation where now it seems like, oh, maybe they'll go further because now they're like creating these alliances or whatever. Like there's, now they're with the pretty boys, but it's just is not great. So I'm going to give them a 3.
Brent?
I feel like you're like holding the entertainment value against them a little bit. I feel like you have to give them a better score because they have placed themselves in a better position than what they were by virtue of the fact that they made a Final 5 with the boys, which is legit, and a Final 3 with the cool kids, which may be legit. And I feel like that they are in the end hoping for their status as a GOAT to carry them through the game. I gave them a 4 last week, and I'm inclined to give them a 5 this week because of the people remaining in the game. I do feel like they are the most likely non-pretty boy to be taken further into the game. And obviously you have a hard time convincing me that anybody is actually going to evict them. Like, I know that they're evicting Esty this week, and that's fair. But Kira's just been so bad at various times throughout the game that I really, you're going to keep Dane and evict Kira? You're going to keep Adam and evict Kira? You're going to keep Mark and evict Kira? No, you're not. You're going to look at the money. Like, as you get to the end of the game, the money becomes more and more real. I do feel like Kira's status continues to go up as the money becomes more real. So it's a 5 for me.
All right. So Melissa went down. Brent went up.
Does Kira end up in the same place?
You gave them a 4 last week.
I gave them a 4 last week. I went down with Melissa. I'm going to give them a 3 this week. I'm giving 1s and 2s. I do think Kira, of all of the people who are not the Frontrunners, is the person with the best chance to potentially win. I think they have the most outs. They have the clearest path to the Final 5 at the very least. And then at the Final 5, they have a chance at staying. If Mark or Anthony or whoever decides to take a shot, then they might be there at the Final 4. These mental competitions, I do think they have a chance at winning. If they go on some kind of competition streak like Paris did, I could see them maybe getting Mark down there at the end, or even Anthony that the jury is bitter against, and then potentially taking out the underdog win. It's a long shot, but not quite as long shot as some of the other players. So I am going with a 3, but I do still feel like Kira should be, in Kira's mind, Kira's a lock for Final 2. If they were a lock for Final 2, I'd be at a 5 right now. But the problem is they're not. The problem is right now, there's a decent chance they're out at Final 5. And even if they're not out at Final 5, it might be Final 4 or even Final 3. So I don't like their position that much. And the more it doesn't change, the more I'm going to go down as the Frontrunners continue to go up for me. So I went with a 3. The audience went with a 4, same as last week. So Brent went up, Melissa went down, I went down, audience stayed the same, and that will leave us at a 4 average. So I believe Kira will stay the same.
I believe so.
So, final person to talk about here is Anthony. Anthony, all right. So let's talk about Anthony, because last week took a big blow to the game, the ego, the jury, all kinds of stuff. This week has kind of been a comeback week for Anthony, in my view, at the very least. Dane talking about taking Anthony to the Final 2 again. Dane talking about taking Anthony to Final 3. Adam also willing to take Anthony to the Final 3. If Anthony's in the Final 3 and Dane decides to take Anthony's got a great shot to win. I think that I do think that Dane has the upper hand there. I think that Dane is more likely to win, but decent chance that the jury could be bitter against Dane or respect what Anthony did. So I do think that he has a great shot there. And then he still has Mark, who, if Mark decides to take a shot, Anthony will be safe. I think Anthony is a lock for final 3 right now. I don't think there's any way Anthony does not make the final 3. Of course there are some crazy ways, but in terms of things that are like realistic, that aren't totally out of the norm, I think that Anthony is a lock for final 3 and has outs for the final 2. His end game is back into place, where it seemed like it was maybe going to be derailed last week when Dane was talking about taking Mark instead. And for all of those reasons, I'm actually going to stick with my 8 from last week for Anthony. I think that he remains a top contender, and given the fact that he has been able to rebound a little bit, he's working on his relationship with Kira, he's making sure that Mark is primed to take a shot in the coming weeks. I do think that he's the guy that you thought you had down, but you cannot turn your back on him. And I do think that he still has the skills to maybe take some kind of shot toward the end. And so I'm going to stick with my 8 here. Brent, what do you think?
Well, I'm sticking with my score, but unfortunately, I didn't give him an 8 last week. I gave him a 7, so I'm giving him a 7 this week. I still feel like in Big Brother Canada, competitions are king. Anthony hasn't shown the ability to win any competitions, and you can't tell me in modern day Big Brother that somebody's actually going to get to the end of the game and win without winning a competition. He's going to have to pull out 1, maybe 2 competitions. I would, like, for reference, I would love to see the world. By the way, the house guests are just slamming Paris left and right within the Big Brother house right now. Currently, I feel like they're being unfair to her, but I do want to see the world where Paris doesn't win like Final 4 HOH and Final 3 HOH, and yet like I want to see the world where Kayla wins Final 3 HOH and cuts Derek and takes Paris to the end of the game. Does she still win? I think she probably does, but it would have been more interesting to watch because I feel like the fact that she won back-to-back competitions there at the end gave them license to vote for her when maybe they otherwise shouldn't have voted for her. So again, show me somebody who can win a competition and maybe they can win a jury vote on Big Brother Canada. Anthony hasn't shown an ability to do that. So I feel like his chances of winning the game are like what they were before, but Taryn is correct in that his end game has improved as far as making his way to the end of the game. I also don't see him being evicted before the final 3, and that's not something that I could say 24 or 7 days ago. So it's a 7 for me, and it's a strong 7.
There you go, Melissa.
Yeah, so I gave him a 9 last week. I'm going to give him an 8 this week because I think there are, positives and negatives. I think he would have gone further down, because he started off this week really rough. I mean, the way he was coming after Kira and the way he was just arguing with people and saying he was going to stand up for Corey or whatever, it just was really bad. But the fact that he was able to, should have killed his game. But the fact that he's been able to come back off of that and still end up in a decent position and in fact have Kira back on his side, apparently, all that shows that he's doing at least a good job. So I feel like he went down, then back up for me. So not all the way up to a 9, but I'm going to give him an 8 for that.
All right, there you go. The audience gave him a 7 last week. They have gone down. They have gone down on Anthony's game.
Why?
They are down to a 6, and let me tell you, it was not a solid 6 either. It was a barely made it 6. They almost went down to a 5 on Anthony here, but it is a 6 from the audience, which I think lands him at a 7 overall. So Anthony has gone down from an 8 to a 7. Narbs pointed out in the chat a little bit earlier that basically I have rated the 3 frontrunners 8s, and everyone else is down at 2, 1, and the likely final 2 goat, or the most likely final 2 goat is a 3. That's exactly what I was doing with my ratings this week. Yes, you have correctly pointed it out.
Just in watching the episodes, as far as Anthony goes, he's really been leaning into the heel edit, the villain edit of it all. I would love for him to make it to the end of the game. I don't think in the history of reality TV we've ever had somebody who's controlled the game like Anthony and has also been the villain. Like to have like the African-American man in the house, and usually like reality TV has like a quota, so they usually put one or 2, even though they should be putting more than that. They usually put 1 or 2 in the game, and so they put Anthony into the game, and he's not one like he's not like a Bible toting man. He's somebody that has some pizzazz behind him. He has a way about him that is just very cocky, and it comes off in terms of the edit, and it comes off in terms of the house sometimes as being a little bit unlikable. I really want to see the world where he gets to the final two and gets to plead his case to the jury as the heel of the season, and see what the house guests do with that, because I feel like there's room for him to be the winner of Big Brother Canada. I still would love to see the world where Anthony wins, even though I don't respond to his game personally. I mean, he has at least done one thing that I feel like you have to do on Big Brother, and that's you have to play to your strengths. And these are Anthony's strengths, whether or not we like them or not. He's used them effectively as tools within the Big Brother house and has come out on the better end more times than not. So I would like to see what happens at the end if he gets there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most likely final three is Adam, Dane, and Anthony, and I think that's a fantastic final three. Not only in terms of like sheer gameplay strength, but also in terms of, you know, Adam takes Dane. I don't know which one of them wins. I'd give the leg up to Adam, but either of them could win. Dane takes Anthony. Again, either of them could theoretically win. And so it's like a competition showdown between Adam and Dane. And then even once one of them wins, it's not like Kevin Martin versus Karen. It's like, okay, now one of them won. Now who wins the game? We still don't even know. So yeah, I think it would be a very good final three, and I'd be very excited to see all of them face each other in the final two.
I see that Douglas in the chat says those tools didn't work on Ika Wong, and I think that's true. But you know, I feel like that women are held to a different standard in reality TV, and I've kind of, like I've said this before, I gave my little speech about why Chrissy didn't win over at the end of Survivor over Ben Driebergen. So I feel like that you can't necessarily, like, it's not apples to apples, Douglas, in terms of comparing Anthony and Ika Wong.
Well, were they saying that he wasn't able to charm Ika?
Huh? Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't see what else they were saying in the chat, but yeah. By the way, we need to, as far as if we get a Wendy's visit, it needs to be Paris. As much smack as the house guests have been talking about Paris, it needs to be Paris.
Yes, that would be great. Yeah, apparently Olivia gave Adam the advice, hey, stick to your closest allies. That's what I wish I had done in my season. I wish I had been even more loyal to Allie. So.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So there's the stock watch choices there. So let's move on to the decisions that were made in the last week. I believe we do have a little summary here, a little summary tab.
We do have a little summary, but before you get to that, just one piece of business I must handle with the chat room. Occasionally, look, if you guys come to the chat room, okay, and you got something to say, and you talk smack about somebody that's here, like me, Taryn, or Melissa, even if you say it in a way that you think is okay, if it comes off as shitty in the chat, you're probably gonna get detention from one of the moderators. That does not mean that we dislike you, or that we hate you, or that you're a bad person, or that you're evil, or that we want to get rid of you. It's just a timeout. It's just like 5 minutes to like say, hey, hush. You're being a little bit too much right now. You're being a little bit too extra. So don't get all bent out of shape about it. I ever see like one of the moderators give somebody timeout earlier, and it's somebody who I know, somebody who I think is a patron of Rob as a podcast. I don't know that they are, but I think I've seen them around enough. And it's not a big deal, man. Just to chill. All right, cool. Go ahead, Taryn.
All right. Everybody chill. That's fine. Yeah. All right, let's talk over the decisions here. Melissa, we'll start with you. How are you doing here with your choices this week? What did you decide to do?
I feel good about my choices, but the chat just said R.I.P. Melissa.
I think they're just assuming.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I did pretty well this week because I ended up I sold all my Mark stock because he sucks and he's not going to win. And I bought Adam. So I bought 6 Adam.
Oh,
and
really?
I feel like that was a good move because Adam went up this week, right?
Yes,
there you go.
So, I mean, everybody who's doubting me and saying I suck, like...
You did hold on to your Anthony and Damien.
Yeah, but, Damien's might stay. No, didn't I sell Damien?
It looks like you still have Damien.
I can't see it. So.
I don't know. I might have held down to Damien. I'll probably get rid of him this week, though, because I think he's going out in the double. But, I'm going to stick with my Anthony because he could pull out a win in the end. So,
There you go. Brent, what did you decide to do here?
Here we go. I think I had it right here. I know that everything's in Kira. That's what I decided to do because
There
I
you go.
needed something safe. I wasn't sure the way the house was going to shake out. I thought there might be a civil war between the pretty boys. I thought that perhaps Adam might go crawling back to the pretty boys and go after Damien and Esty, and that's what he decided to do. So I really thought that the one person who was in a safe position was Kira. I felt like there was no way that they would be evicted this week, and that is what has happened. In fact, as I have said previously on the podcast, I feel like they have improved their lot in the Big Brother house. So I did not make any money, but I also did not lose any money, and I think my net worth is up $20 by virtue of the fact that I was handed $20. Other than that, nothing much really happened to me.
Yes.
By the way, I sold all of my Mark. Oh, sorry. This is what I told Alexandra. Sell all my Corey shares. That's $45, or that's 45 shares times 3, so I get $135. Add in my $22 because I had $2 left over plus my $20 stipend, and I had $157 to spend. I used all of that to buy 39 shares of Kira, and I have $1 left over.
Yeah, you barely escaped that Corey stock.
I know, right?
There you go. So yes, Melissa, I believe, I don't know the total change here. Melissa is up $15 from last week, so I think you lost some on Anthony, and potentially, did we lose some on Damien as well? Did Damien go down? No, Damien stayed the same. So I think you gained 12 and you lost a few. So
not so bad, everybody,
not
right?
so bad. Not so bad.
Not so bad. By the way, I see the chat noting that I gave Kira 5. First of all, 2 things. Number 1, I have said consistently that as long as the longer Kira stays in the game, I'm going to continue to evaluate them and probably give them a higher score from week to week. And number 2, I have given other people who I have owned bad scores before. That is not how this works. In order for this to work, I have to be honest about my ratings. And so I gave honest ratings as far as Mark goes last week, Corey goes, and Kira goes this week. And I really feel like they're a 5. If the person who I really should have bought is Mark, because I ended up giving them a score that was way out of bounds with everybody else, even though in the end it didn't really change anything. But if I was trying to rig something, that's somebody who I would have bought.
Yes. All right. Well, so Brent ultimately made no money this week, but he did not lose any. And then this week I decided to go all in on Adam, which turned out to be a good choice here. Adam, I bought 45 shares of Adam. He went up by $2, so I made a profit of $90. Which is going to bring me up to a $380 net worth. I believe I saw a tweet from Christina Z, who said that Adam was the most popular choice this week. So I think a lot of money. Thanks to me.
You bought all of the Adam stock available.
Oh.
Well, there's lots of patrons buying those. So
yes.
like Karen's just like a little sliver of that.
Oh,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
I thought I bought a lot of Adam, and I bought 6.
I believe over 400 shares total of Adam were purchased. So Adam was a very popular. I thought everyone was going to buy Adam. I thought he was. Look, I've been higher on Adam all season long, so I really felt like he was due for
Adam, but I bought the maximum amount I could buy, which was 6.
You could have sold.
I bought 500 Adams. There's no way I can compete with that. Like,
Here's
what am I doing with my stupid little 6?
Let me just tell you that the way you're doing this wrong is that you're keeping stocks that you bought from week 3.
Yes, because I have faith.
Okay, that's
Brent, we don't need to give advice.
I'm just saying. No. I want to explain this because people don't understand. Like, well, how could she be doing so badly compared to Taryn? Okay.
Oh, thanks, Brent. I didn't even say I'm doing so badly.
So the reason you're doing so badly is because the thing that you're missing is that there's no penalty for selling. So if you sell something and then you come back to them at a later time, that's okay. And then
there's
you're not
penalty in my mind with the guilt.
That's your holdback.
The guilt that I feel for giving up on them.
Okay. That's
guilt
the
fee.
difference. See, we're playing cold hard numbers, and even though I am not currently beating Taryn, I'm at least trying to get with the program. I feel
is Melissa the Damien of the stock watch?
I'm
I
trying.
think I am.
She's the
wow.
Damien.
I'm the
Mark.
Damien because everyone wants me to win. They love me. I'm lovable. And instead, I'm getting ripped to shreds. And then I make one little veto win, and then I'm out in the double eviction. That's what's going on here. I finally got my one little Adam stock win, and then it's like, oh, you're out.
Yes. All right. So to get to the summary here, I am in the lead with a $360 total portfolio worth here, or 300. Yeah, that's fine. It's plus 20, so it's $380 total. With the 380 lead, and then next up is Brent at 176, and then Melissa at 106.
I think it's 177, but whatever, that's fine.
Yeah,
okay, I had $1. Yeah, I think you're forgetting about the dollar, but that's fine.
I'm looking at the summary here. It says 176.
Alexandra, I had $1 left over. I'm telling you, it should be one because I had 157 last week. There was no change, so by definition, I should have $20 more than I had before. So it should be 177.
Needs that dollar.
Yeah, well, that could make the difference because I feel like I have to have enough to at least cover one house guest from you, because otherwise you're going to have so much money that you can buy everybody at the end here. I have to have enough to cover somebody.
Yes.
And hopefully that's not the person that you decide to cover.
I do have a big lead, but again, the final round could make the difference because the winner pays out at $10 a share. So if you choose the winner and the other person doesn't, then you're gonna make a killing.
Oh boy!
I
can still do this.
There you go. And Nate wants to know: do I still have all 4 of my draft picks? Yes, I do.
He has all 4 of his draft picks.
Yes.
And SD isn't on your team, is she? Or is she? So he's going to have all 4 of his draft picks.
4 of the final 6. Yep.
Is Damien on your team?
Yep.
Okay, he is. Okay, at least that's going to happen.
Yes, I don't have all of the pretty boys. I have 4 of the final 6.
Oh my
God,
if you had all 4 pretty boys, it'd be like, forget it. It's over. Season's over.
Yeah, I'll probably lose 2 of them, 2 of my picks prior to the final 4, and then I'll have 2 of the final 4. But I do think I have the 2 more likely winners of the final 4. Hopefully, we'll see.
What is this draft you guys are talking about? Was I involved in this?
Yeah, it happened ages ago that you were a part of this thing, and I don't know if you remember, but you lost immediately.
So long ago, Brown wasn't a part of it.
Brent is the Melissa of the draft.
I picked the people that I love, the people that are extra, the people that are fun for the Celebrity Big Brother draft, and that worked out great. Like Tamar, and I can't remember. I know I had other people that were fun. I had what's her face, the one who was evicted in 4th place. She was just on RuPaul's Drag Race. What was the one we were all rooting for?
Candy.
Thank you. Yes, Candy. I think I had Candy. I had the fun people, and then that's what I picked. I picked all the fun people. And then this time I picked the fun people. I think I had Laura on my team. Did I have Laura? Maybe something.
Yeah, you had like the first 4.
I had Kaylin. Yeah, it was a disaster. I had Eddie. It was terrible. Oh my god. Okay.
So
didn't work out this time.
All I have left is Anthony.
That's the reason this season sucks, because they evicted all of the crackheads and the fun people. Yes, thank you, Shukri. That. If you haven't noticed my Twitter bio head, that's what I have at the top is Brent fixed all the crackheads. And they evicted all the crackheads. They took away all our fun, damn it.
All the fun.
All right.
Fun. And see, this is why the pretty boys even happened, is because of Taryn. Like we're all in agreement on that, right? Sure. Like Taryn picked them. He was like, oh no, I didn't mean to pick all these alpha males. Oh man.
It's not my fault, the guys.
And then look what happened.
Well, yeah, but part of it is the fact that we don't pick them. See, if we don't pick them, he's going to be left with them. Like if we continue not to pick the alpha males, then either him or Rob is going to have to pick them.
You guys left me all the guys.
If we want a season with good people still left in the game, we have to give them to Taryn. That's like the only way to do it.
Yeah,
at this
give
point.
all your favorite players to me, and then
you'll be all right. And then they'll last the whole season.
All right.
The chat keeps asking me, Brent, who is the prettiest boy of the season? I feel like it has to be Damien. If you're talking about the prettiest pretty boy, like the pretty, like Damien to me is the honorary pretty boy because he is the real pretty boy, and we don't deserve him. He's not made for this game, you guys. Like, let's be real. He's just not. Like, even when they're basically telling him to his face what's going on, he's like, did you see him when he was drunk and walking down the stairs? Like, that was the best. It was when he was talking about the fact that these people this is crazy. Nobody's safe. what's going on? Yeah, like
He kept like getting into like laughing fits.
yeah, and he was walking down the stairs like E.T. when he was drunk. Like it was pretty funny. Like he was like, like, yeah, good stuff. We don't deserve him, but he's not gonna win Big Brother, you guys.
All right, so a few more questions that I asked on the survey. How would you rate the live feeds this week? And I got an answer of 5.7.
Oh, that's higher than I thought.
That's higher than I thought.
It actually was an increase from last week. I feel like
Really?
I feel like it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if people are like rating the actual week or just their overall feelings about the feeds.
Yeah, remember Melissa? Like the Corey thing didn't happen until the very end of the like. Terry already got the numbers by the time the Corey was finally put on.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Because we only found out last minute. So.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
still, even still, it's like, why is it so high this week?
Well, it was a slight increase from the previous week. It's been increasing. Basically, week 4 it was at a 5.3, and then it was dropping up until week 6. Or sorry, no, week 4 it was a 5.3. Week 5 it was a 4.5, and then it started to go back up last week to a 5.6, and then this week a 5.7. So it's been kind of a slope. It went down, and now it's on its way back up. And so, I mean, personally, I would rate the feeds. This has been a very boring week. Not a lot. There was like one explosion the night that Adam won HOH, and apart from that, it's been nothing happening. I personally would give the feeds a pretty low score this week, 3 or a 4. But my overall feeling about the season is still, I still feel pretty good. That is a 5.2 is how people would rate the season so far, which is also an increase, a pretty dramatic increase, actually. Last time it was a 4.8. So the overall season feelings are going up as well. How would you rate the... I messed up. I'm sorry. That was the episodes.
Wait,
how would you rate the episodes?
Get that clip. We need that clip of Terrence saying I messed up. Go ahead.
I shouldn't put them all right in a row. It's hard to read them. The episodes were given a 5.7. That's what I was giving you from before. Last week the feeds were a 5.6. This week the feeds were 4.4. So they did fall.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like they had to go down a little bit because it's been really slow.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like even though it's like lower, it's still not. It's still too high for what it's actually.
This point in the season, things are usually starting to slow down. Not as slow as right now, but what are you gonna do? But the episodes are back on their way up. That's those were the stats that I was giving you before. So people are feeling good about the episodes. They're feeling good about the season as a whole. The feeds are starting to slow down. So that is representative of how I would feel about it as well. I also asked you to rank the players from your favorite to your least favorite, and we saw last week for the first time ever, Adam supplanted Damien for the favorite player.
Wow.
And this week he keeps his lead.
Yep.
Oh, really? I thought for sure Damien was going to come back into the lead because he won the veto.
Nope. Adam keeps the lead. In fact, he actually has widened the gap a little bit. He's even more in the lead than he was before. Damien continues to fall a little bit. He's still in second place behind Adam, but Dane is very, very close in third place to supplanting Damien in second. So there you go. Previously, Anthony was in fourth place, and Anthony has fallen all the way down to second to last, just above Mark. So Anthony and Mark down at the bottom, and Kira is going to take fourth place. Kira, who had been at the very bottom all season long, is now in fourth, and then Esty is going to be right behind Kira in third to last. So Adam, Damien, Dane, Kira, Esty, Anthony, and then Mark is how the ratings are going to go here.
Excellent.
Yeah. So there you go. Adam remaining. I think Adam's going to run away with the fan favorite by the end of the season. I think that he's got it.
I don't know. I mean, as far as we're concerned, or Canada as a whole? Because I feel like Canada as a whole still loves Damien.
Oh yeah.
But,
The casual audience. Yeah. For sure.
Okay.
But yeah, Anthony has fallen quite far. Anthony just 2 weeks ago was in third place behind Damien and Sam, and now he is second to last, and many people ahead of him: Adam, Dane, and Kira. So what are you gonna do? I asked you to rank the players in order of who you think is most likely to leave in the double eviction to who you think is least likely to leave in the double eviction. First place should not be a surprise to anybody. Damien is in the most danger in the double eviction. Then people think Mark might be in the second most danger. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that Mark is in danger. I think that if Damien wins, or if potentially Kira wins, that Mark might be in some trouble, but I think that they would still try to finesse it so that either Kira or Damien leaves. I'd personally put probably Kira, but I think Kira and Mark probably interchangeable in the second place here, Brent.
Yep, I would agree with that. Again, Damien's going to have to win a competition to keep himself safe. Otherwise, he's going to go home. It's going to be a pretty boring double eviction. I can already see the spoilers on Thursday coming through. SD evicted by a vote of 2-2 with Adam breaking the tie, and Damien being evicted by a vote of, what would it be, 3-0? Yeah. Okay, girl bye.
I could see it be 3-1 SD leaves, 3-0 Damien leaves.
Yeah, that's definitely what it could be.
So I'm actually pretty on board with this order. Damien is in first, then Mark and Kira are pretty close, then drop a level, Adam and Dane pretty close, and then Anthony in the safest
I'm going to try to avoid the spoilers on Thursday.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't get spoiled on what's really happening on the show.
I asked you to rank the players in order of who is best for Adam's game strategically to target this week, and the audience said Mark. They like what Melissa has to say. They say Adam should have targeted Mark.
Well.
We've been over this this debate, but the audience does side with Melissa there. Second place was Esty. Then Anthony, Damien, Dane, and Kira. He should not be targeting Kira, which, yes, he should definitely not be targeting Kira. But I would personally say Esty first. But the audience wants Mark's blood. That's what they want.
You can taste it. They want to bathe in it.
I then asked you to rank the players from who you think Corey is most likely to vote for in the final two to who she's least likely to vote for. She gave me in order, but the audience feels a certain way. Anthony, of course, is number one. She's going to vote for Anthony. Second is Damien. That is also what she said to me, that she would vote for Damien if he got there. Third place is Adam. People think that she would vote for Adam. And then Mark in fourth place. Now, personally, I think it's Anthony and then Mark, because basically Anthony gets her vote over Mark. If Mark is not sitting next to Anthony, that means Anthony's in the jury, and Anthony's probably telling her to vote for Mark. So I do think that Mark gets those two votes. It's just I don't think he gets any other votes. So that's personally how I feel. She didn't say it that way, but that would be my guess. Then Dane after Mark, and then Kira and Esty both down at the bottom. What do you think about that, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I just feel like it's hard because we think about all these things and we ask them these questions when they first get out, and then so many things change and different people come into the jury and influence them because they find out new things, and they their allies turn on them, and so I just feel like it really, I also feel like we get down to the end and we always are shocked by the way people vote, and it never seems to make any sense. So all the analysis we do about the jury votes and who's going to vote for who, I just feel like I've been so beaten down by every time being completely wrong. I just remember we did that chart. We created that chart. I forgot, it was a couple seasons ago maybe, or it was last season, I don't remember. And we said, okay, here are the various scenarios and here's who win. And every time we said that so-and-so would win, and then they didn't win. And it was oh, okay. All that was nothing. All that meant nothing. Everything's random. There's no meaning. It just, I don't even know. I just feel like it's so hard because there's no way to accurately predict the way the jury is going to vote in the end.
Imagine being a player without access to exit interviews or jury segments.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
I do feel like that we've gotten it down to a better science. Like I still feel like juries are unpredictable and you can't account for like, especially, winning incomes at the end, like what happened with Paris last year. But I do feel like that Taryn's, his questions to the jurors during the exit interviews based on what they feel at the time. Also us extrapolating out like who will be there in the jury with them and what will they be telling them. Like all of that, I feel like can give us a pretty 50% picture of how the jury will end up feeling. But I also feel like that there's so much that can go up to chance in terms of like competition wins and also people wanting to back a winner. I've said before that I feel like that last year, if I can't remember the way it went, but like if the ding dongs were voting a certain way, I feel like that somebody was going to vote a certain way. Like John, it was either like Johnny
They
or
were
the ding
saying like
dongs.
Johnny was going to control the
Yeah.
jury, and he was saying he was so going to vote for Kayla, and then all of a sudden he switched, and everyone else switched, and that's the thing is that's why I do like the fact that Taryn asks these questions of the incoming jurors, because then we have them saying this is the way that I would vote when they go into jury. And then if they vote a different way, a lot of the times they'll be like, oh no, I was always going to vote that way. That's the way I felt this whole time. And so then to see like, oh, but it looks like you did leave the house saying you were going to vote this way. What changed in between then? And we have proof that they felt a certain way coming out of the house and felt a different way at the end of the show. So I do like the fact that we asked that so we can compare it versus their actual vote and have proof, like, to ask them about it. Like, well, why did you say you were going to vote for so-and-so over so-and-so? Like when you first came out of the house, what changed? And then we can actually ask them about it rather than just getting a canned answer. It was like, yeah, no, I always was going to vote for that way. What are you talking about? So,
I can't believe nobody's done it before. Like I was like,
yeah,
I was like, it's a question I've always wanted asked, and nobody had done it before. I really wish that I got to talk to the Big Brother US players, because that would have been very interesting during Big Brother 20.
I agree with you, Melissa, that it's great so we get to compare what people think and what they say and how they eventually vote. You have people like that who we can go after and say, look, why did you say this? Or you have people like, Ryan Ballantyne, who they were bitter going into the jury and they voted bitter in the end. Love you, Ryan. Bye.
No, I mean,
they actually, when Ryan was on the podcast, Brent and him had a little debate afterward, and I don't know, I felt like Ryan kind of shut you down a little bit, Brent. I feel like he made some points, and you didn't really have anything to.
What conversation?
I mean, like if we're talking and it's not really on a live podcast, did the conversation really happen?
Okay, it's fan fiction. All right.
Fiction.
So there you go. I also asked, after seeing it, are you for or against the secret assassin twist? Now, last week I asked this question right before the twist actually happened, and people were against it. About 30 out of 100 in terms of people being against on the underside of 50. After seeing it, people were much higher on it. It basically doubled. It went to a light approval, a 60 out of 100, just above the 50 in the middle. So people enjoyed it. I will say, as we talked about that night, I do believe that it has contributed toward the Pretty Boys getting down to the end in a much cleaner fashion. I think that if Corey is in the house this week, we have a much more exciting week play out ahead of us. So I don't like that aspect of it, and I have to imagine that's why, even though a lot of people are like on board, like let's get Corey out, it's still not like up even higher, because it did have a kind of neutering effect on the game. It was exciting for that moment, but I mean that's how twists work. Exciting in the moment, kind of put a damper on things moving forward. But in terms of twists, I do believe this is the highest rated twist that we've seen all season long, that we've been doing here. So
you know why I feel like, not just because of the fact that it sent Corey out of the house, but I feel like anybody could have found that. Number one, Adam was looking in the archive room,
right?
He had to do some work to figure out what the numbers were and look around for shit and find it. Anybody could have found that. It wasn't based on a fan vote or anything like that. Like, I love a twist like that. I also love the veto that Allison found in what was it, season 2? Yes, season 2, where you're looking for the veto and we're following her around on the live feeds. That was great. Live feeds. That was like stuff that I live for. Treasure hunt shit like that. I'm kind of bummed that we don't get to see more of stuff like that, or that they don't do more stuff like that, like the stuff from Big Brother 3 where it's a fan vote. Because it's so dependent on the way you're edited. I know
Yeah,
I don't like those as much.
I even don't like that, like, other than finding the flashlight itself, they, like, locked the place down. You know, and they turned the feeds off and they locked it down and they gave Adam all the time he needed to, like, find the stuff. Like, he very clearly was not concerned about anybody walking in as he has all of the boxes down. It's because they were locked down somewhere, and that's why the feeds were off, and there was no real chance of him getting interrupted and missing out on the twist actually happening. I get it. They want the twist to be found and used and all of that stuff, but I think it's so much more fun if they can have this on the feeds and actually have the sort of tension of, like, you have to do this without anybody noticing.
That was great about Allison.
Yes,
we had, like, I was like holding my breath watching Allison when she was like, she put her legs in the pool and she's like trying to, like, people are walking out and then, like, she has to get to the pool to find the hockey puck, and that was good times, y'all.
Yeah,
more stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I like the idea that you have to work for it. It's like someone in the chat mentioned it's similar to, like, an immunity idol, where for that, like, they actually have to do work to find it, and anybody can find it. And it's not like they've specifically placed it in a room that only so-and-so goes, or like in somebody's bag that, you know, that it's definitely going to go to that person. That I don't like that sort of thing. But the idea that, like, there's something out there that anybody could have found, that's the kind of twist that I'm more inclined to go with, rather than a twist where it's completely rigged. And so, yeah, I think that if they did something like more like immunity idols, then I could be more inclined to be more in favor of these sorts of twists.
All right. So, final question. Who do you want to be evicted this week? Unsurprisingly, 70% say Mark over Esty. They would prefer to see Mark leave. Which, you know, like, yes, it would be fun, but at the same time, it would also, again, it might, I think Mark being in there is actually a little more exciting for future weeks.
Yeah, but we've heard this before, Taryn. I was sold a bill of goods about Mark.
That's true. But even if Mark doesn't make a move, I think it's more exciting to have him there than Esty, who's done nothing and will do nothing.
Yes, I can get on board with that.
So there you go. That was the form, and that's basically what we have for you this week on the Roundtable. Now, we talked about the stock watch. It's going to be very interesting. I may have a gigantic lead right now, but part of the stock watch is that you have to have investments every week. You can't just hold on to your money until the very end, and so every week you have the opportunity to lose it all. And this week more so than any other week because it's a double eviction, and you're gonna have to make some interesting decisions. We've talked about how Damien is probably the most in trouble, but a lot of people can leave this week, and it'll be interesting to see how this double eviction plays out here moving forward. So let me know if you have any ideas for a hashtag in the chat. And Brent, Melissa, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I mean, this is, you know what this season has been like to me? Like, I think Celebrity Big Brother to me was like a big plate of junk food. Like, I had a great time. It was fun. Like, there were some times where I wanted people to make moves, but sometimes they made the moves I wanted them to make, and other times I was pining for them to make a move, but I still had lovable people that were in the game that I could root for. This season has been, a Big Brother Canada has been more like a protein shake, where it's like, it's good for me. Like, the strategy is something that I can certainly appreciate, but it doesn't mean that I necessarily enjoy drinking it. It's just like, okay, I know I'm going to take it because I know it's good for me and I can appreciate what's going on in the house. But the entertainment value has just not been there. I think these, the boys are in for a rude awakening when they come out of the house. Yeah, your alliance has been pretty amazing, but the season as a whole has sucked ass. And I don't think they're going to be able to avoid that when they come out.
This season has been really bad, to the point where my mom was watching for the first time, live Big Brother Canada. Usually I sit down and force her to watch it all in one sitting with me afterwards. But this season I was actually trying to have her and my dad watch live, and there are a few episodes, they're like a few weeks behind now, and they were like, okay, should we get caught up? And I was like, it's really not worth it. Like, don't bother, because it's not, I don't think it's entertaining at all, and I don't think it's fun. So I don't think it's, must watch television right now. And it's unfortunate because I usually really love Big Brother Canada, and this has just been, especially after last season, a total letdown. So, I do think that, once we get down to just the pretty boys, it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing shakes out. But other than that, I feel like it's just whittling it down till we can get to that point.
Well, let me just point out again then that I am enjoying this season, and I think the episodes in particular have been pretty good. A lot of the time in Big Brother Canada, when it comes to the actual edited episode, I'm just kind of like, do I have to watch this to recap it? But this season, I actually am excited to watch the episodes. I feel like they've been pretty exciting. In fact, I think the most recent episode on Sunday night was a very good one. And so I'm enjoying the season. I like where it's headed. I like what it's doing for Big Brother Canada as a whole. I remember a lot of people were very, very down on Big Brother 12 when that was airing, and I feel like it has kind of had a resurgence in popularity. And I do think that despite the fact that everyone was very, very down on the Brigade at the time, that since then people have kind of come around on them. I think we might see a similar thing happen with this season. Not to say it's as good as Big Brother 12. I think we had some other exciting characters on that season that we don't have on this season. But I do enjoy this season, and I think that we've got some good stuff. That we're getting.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, is that Big Brother 12 was one of my favorite seasons of Big Brother, and I'm really not enjoying this one. And Big Brother 12, I do feel like, though, I liked all the various characters in the house. So we had a bunch of people outside of the Brigade that I liked, who I did feel like were fighting for their lives. And then I also liked the guys in the Brigade. So I liked everyone and was rooting for various parties throughout the season. And this season, though, I don't like anybody.
Well, and they took out one of their own. They took out Hoffman, so it wasn't like it was all four of them marching to the end. And we had Reagan and Brittany to more extent, where we were hoping for her. And remember, there was a point in time where Lane would have taken Brittany to the end. Like, he would have gone against the Pretty Boys. So, like, we don't have that.
Yeah. And we also don't even have good characters in the Pretty Boys. So it's not even like, well, at least the Pretty Boys are really fun and entertaining and great television. Like, they all are so lame and boring. Like, they seem like very nice people, whatever, but they're not fun to watch. As much as I like Adam, which I do like Adam, it's not thrilling. It's not exciting. So, all I know is that I did really like Big Brother 12, and it's not just about like, oh, this formula is boring to me, because I have seen that formula done when I did like it. So it's not great. I don't know.
Well, I will say again, to offer the counterpoint here, I do find the Pretty Boys to be entertaining. I think that Adam is kind of a likable goof. I love when he's talking about Angelica, the crime fighter. He can be very funny at times. I think Anthony is a very compelling villain. Watching him has been very interesting for me all season long. The episodes have been great with him. I think that his character is somebody that is going to be remembered for a while. Dane has his own sort of, less so than some of the others, but even Mark kind of contributes to this is in terms of like how much of a wild card he is at times. I do like the formula of them together. The fact that they are so dysfunctional and yet so functional at the same time. I do find that entertaining personally, and just to be the voice out there for people who also are enjoying this season and these players. So that's how I feel. Brent?
I feel like that's great. We have three different opinions, because Melissa's totally down on it. I'm tolerating it, and I can appreciate it for what it is, and Taryn's totally into it. So I get it.
There you go.
Yeah. By the way, blue matzo balls. That's what the chat wants to go with, and I am okay with that if you are.
I saw a hashtag Kira please flip.
Okay, well, if whichever one you're cool with.
We'll try to stay away from any
from anything blue
body parts. Hashtag Kira please flip. I think that's a good
Kira,
one.
Please flip.
Please, Kira. Please just do it.
Let's just do it. Come on. Come on, Diary Room. Just give him a little push.
There it is. So there you go. That's our roundtable for the week. We will, of course, be back. I will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother Canada 7 live feeds. And then Thursday night, we will be live to recap the double eviction of Big Brother Canada 7. So tune in for that. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taryn. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa is at It's Melissa. 3 A's. And yeah, that's what we got. So thank you everyone for joining us. For Brent and Melissa, I am Taryn Armstrong. Hashtag Kira, please flip. Please.
Please.
We'll see you next time.